Parasocial with Don Benitez. The Real says, sup, hello The Real. Ramon super chats, bro, my homeboy at the Rattlesnakes bar needs a new dancer. What nights are you available? I'm not a dancer, so I'm not interested. Mr. Earwax says, Don the best. Thank you. Alex says, finally here on time. What's up, Alex? Thank you, Ramon. Timer extended. And I just get the vibe that it's a gay bar, and I don't think I'd fit in there. Olive says, hey, what the hell? Hello, Olive. King says, hi. Hello, King. Ray says, are you gay now? Ian Christie says, yo, what's up, Don? Hello, Krista. B-Man says, am I early? Yeah, you are. Timothy says, I'm erecting swing sets. That's cool. Shady says, what's your favorite movie? I just watched Blue Jasmine, and I enjoyed that. It's Vox says, hi, Don. Hello, Vox. Copper says, hi, Don. I like your haircut. Thank you. Tinker says, rate my profile picture. 2. RM says, what's this weird Somalian music you are playing? I don't know. I found it in like this non-copyright music collection. Liz says, hello Don, how is Wednesday treating you? It's been pretty good, thank you. And thank you, Jessica Knowles, for the W. I did not know that was a gift. That must be new. Thank you, Jessica, for the W. Olive says, your channel is growing so much, Don. Remember us when you have a Mercedes. I probably won't. MX says, do your parents love you? No comment. Caden says, hi. Hello, Caden. RVL says, rate my profile picture. 2. Defin says, hello, Donnie Benitez. Hello, Defin. It says, hello, I'm Verity, your personal talker friend. Ask me anything. I know everything. What is Verity? Ethan says, hello. Hello, Ethan. The Real says, want some tea? No, thank you. SN says, hi, Dad. Hello, SN. Ollie says, shake my ass. I'm not doing that. Creative says, do you like my profile picture? No. And what I dislike your profile picture, but you know what I dislike more than your profile picture? That font. Thank you, King D, for the disco ball abomination. SN's, yeah, hello. Rachel says, hi. Raccoon, hello, Rachel. It says, Verity is a personal talker. I don't know what that means. B-Man says, Verity is a Minecraft mod. What's the mod about? Lasagna says, hi, Don. Do you remember me? I remember your name. O says, remember me? No. Xylo says, guess what I'm doing, Don? You are listening to this while you take a shower. Shaddy says, you like gay people? Yes. Timothy says, stripper club? It's going in and out. Hell yeah. What? Ashlyn says, Don, what is it? Logan says, hello, Chud. Hello, Logan. Sebastian says, do you remember me? No. You're annoying. SN says, remember me? I do you. And you're still... That question is still annoying, though. Creative says, do you like my font now? No, don't use any fonts. Stop trying to be special. FC says, Timothy, what? What's that? Eden says, hi, hello. Dusty says, yo, I wish I can watch you more, but I can't because my internet acts up. Oh, that sucks. KM says, please send me Laughing Disco. Are you even streaming? Shaddy says, do you remember me? No. Nay says, remember me? No, you're annoying. AD says, hello, Chud Abomination. Hello, AD. 1 says, what's a movie you really want to watch? I want to watch this TV show called This. There's a TV show that I want to watch called that, but I can't find it on any streaming services. Livestream says, hi, hello, Livestreams. Rar says, whatever. Yo, I got a font too. I can see that. It says, do you know I'm autistic? I did not know that. Roblox says, remember when you got $500? Yeah, I do remember that. Your boy says, bring back Lying Don. Okay, I'll do that right now. Xylo says, remember me? Yeah, I remember you. You're that funny guy with the Dexter profile picture. Your boy, Void says, can you rate my drawing, please? It led under post. Not right now. I'm so busy. You're so annoying. Fox says, have you seen The Odyssey? I honestly haven't. Logan says, hello, mean Dean Shud. Hello, Logan. O says hi. Do you remember me? Yeah, I remember you. Yeah. Sharkster says hello. Hello, Sharkster. Shaddy says GCTH. I don't know what you're saying, dude. Thank you again to King D for the disco ball. Creative says this is my not font. What are you saying? Lasagna says hope you have a successful stream today. Thank you. Nay says do you remember me now? I do. Yeah. I remember you from yesterday. Joe Mama says good day, Don. You look parched. I'm not parched. Wyatt says say hello as loud as you can. I'm not doing that. By the way, I'm actually gonna stop lying. I don't feel like doing it now. Jack says can I sub? Yeah. Jay says remember me from yesterday? No, I don't. Xylo says send me your server in your Discord DMs. Well, message me that on Discord and I'll do that. Chick says remember me? Yes. Wyatt says why not? I already forgot what you're talking about. Green says, is Finn considered a color or a name? A name. Strike says, you're so cool. Thank you. Bella says, do you remember me? Yeah. Dusty says, yo, is streaming good because I want to be like you? Is streaming good? What kind of vague question is that? Jack says, do you play Fortnite? I sometimes do. New Mexico Super Chats, hi Don. Do you own 5 cars of the MTA New York City Subway R143 new technology trains? I don't own any weird vehicles, so I wouldn't own that. Blockio says, do you play Roblox? Hell no. Palm says, hello, how are you? I'm good. Jam says, do you remember me? No. Shadow says, you play COD? I don't. Thank you, New Mexico. Timer extended. One says, hi Matt is on Apple TV. I don't know if you've already checked. Are you personally able to watch it? AD says Discord name Chud. It's in my YouTube about me. Calvin says, do you remember me? No, I don't. Op says, are you trans? No. Aya says hi. Hello, Aya. Thank you, Take, for the clutch. Brad says, can I have a Lego set? No. Cameron says, hi Don, you have the same name as my friend. Oh, that's cool. RM says, would you join the Somalian Avengers team? I would not do that. Tina says hi. Hello, Tina. Dev says, do you scrunch or fold? No comment. Ashlyn says, is this all you do? Yes. Dusty says, do you remember me from yesterday? Yeah, you were talking about Ozzy. David says, look up. No. Real says, I saw you on content rewards. Yeah, I am on there. DP says, if I paint my PC black, will it run? No comment. Ahmed says, if you're a player in Among Us IRL, what will be your role? I don't know, dude. Innocent. Calvin says, are you gay? I'm not gay. The edit says, what's your favorite food? I've been liking egg burritos lately. Jennifer says, say hamburger. There you go. Jace says, I had a car crash yesterday. I'm glad you're alive. Gabby says, hi. Hello, Gabby. Cash says, you gotta get a cut to get the bitches. Haircut? Mr. says, do you need what? Finish your sentence next time. Sebastian says, do you like Indomie noodles? I don't know what that is. Mr. says, do you need help with what? The boy says, thank you for doing it for a short amount of time. You're welcome. Beer says, do you remember me? Yes, I do. Oops says, you are sus. I don't know why. Alright. Mike says, have you met other YouTube live streamers? No. I haven't. Phantom says, hi. Hello. Phantom. You says, what should I have for dinner? You should have a cheeseburger. Gus says, yo. Hello, Gus. Guy says, have you played The Last of Us? I have not played The Last of Us. Zeno says, hi Don, I got to go, you're cool. See ya, Zeno. The Real says, do you play GTA? I don't play GTA. No. 1 second, please, I'm doing something. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Dom says I'm back. You're copying me. Jess says, hi, Fo, you remember me? Yeah, I do. I like says, what's your favorite food? The cheeseburger. Esports says, hello, what's your favorite video game? Minecraft. Harper says, do you remember me from yesterday? I do not. Queen says, do you ever smile on stream? Yeah, I do that sometimes. Totally says, do you play Geometry Dash? Not anymore. Wyeth says, hello. Hello, Wyeth. Carnival says, Dawn, I'm gonna try to make it to every one of your streams. Okay, good luck with that. I think you're gonna fail because I'm probably gonna stream eventually where you're sleeping. Ale says, hello Donnie boy, how's it going? It's going good. Cameron says, remember you crack me hard? I don't remember that. Aiden says, hey, hello Aiden. RM says, got any advice on how to put 100 bottles of bleach in my car engine? I mean, I would just not do that. That could damage the car. Shark says, gift. What? Nathan says, back again, asking, can I tickle you? No. Kiwi says, have you met a celebrity? I have not. Dev says, you're definitely a scruncher. No comment. Dr. Pepper says, spell run. I'm not into anal sex though. Kamala says, hey, hello Kamala. Pixel says, this is so fake. No, it's not fake. You're an idiot. Millen says, poop. Okay. Jagon says, what have you regretted in your life? Spending too much time on the internet. Emily says, poop. Okay. Lauren says, do you play Fortnite? Yeah, I do. Marion says, hi. Hello, Marion. Wardog says, why do you do this? Money. Goodman says, can you say cool something offer? No. I can't, so do you have any siblings? I keep that private, sorry. Trenton says, can I promote other people's channels here? Yeah, but just know that you're degrading yourself by doing that, and you're really annoying and stupid. Aslan says, Sigma Boy. Okay. Queen says, if everyone likes, you'll have over 300 likes. You don't have to, though. Go ahead and dislike if you want to. Spunky Gooner super chats money. Thank you. To be honest, I don't care about likes. I don't care about viewers. This is what I care about. Thank you, Spunky. Timer extended. Try says, can I add you in Fortnite? No. Bianco says, FG, I don't know what you're saying, dude. Spider says, I like money. Me too. Funny says, do you brush your teeth? Yes, I do. Roblox says, do you remember the tornado question from last time? No. I get a lot of tornado questions. Cool says, what do I do if my brother wants to kill me? Try to make up somehow. Don't break the bridge. Eamon says, is 40 too old to experiment with new wiping techniques? I don't know what to say to that. I'm sorry. Ramon says, found it. Watch TV series Heimat, A Chronicle of Germany. But where do I watch it, though? I'm Nobody says, did you know you're a Yepet? Yeah. Gabby says, I'm going to leave for a second. Okay, see ya, Gabby. Ayo says, do you play Roblox? No. Heather says, gay. Okay. Ranger says, rate my profile picture. 1. Seth says, poop. Okay. SN says, poop. Why are you guys spamming poop? I'm Nobody says, did you know you're a yapper? Yes. I mean, I'm more of a reader than a yapper. Thank you again to King D for the disco ball abomination. 4 says, you mean add that kid on Fortnite? I'm not doing that. I don't want to play with children. That's weird. Spunky Gooner super chats. Don cares about me. Thanks. You're my best, not friend. Same. You're my best, not friend. Spunky. Timer extended. Extreme says rate my profile picture. 3. Elijah says goon. I'm not doing that. Dan says wave emoji. Hello, Dans. Luke says LeBron James. Okay. Heather says, do you have any allergies? Yeah, to peanuts. Bionic says, remember me? No. Inio says, rate my profile picture. It's a little too cute. It's a little cringy. Jay says, why do you care about the money? Don't you have a job? I don't talk about my job. Hemlick says, death by Torta. That's not gonna happen. Frank says, ever been with a woman? No comment. Wesley says, did you have a good day? Yeah. Ice says, a genuine question here. Does it clap? No comment. Jess says, can we touch each other's anal openings? No, I'm not into that. Love says, do you have friends? Yeah. Arthur says, remember me now? Yes, I do. Jim says, remember me? Yes. Roblox says, besides the fact tornadoes kill people, do you like them? Yeah, I mean, nature's very interesting. 1 says, have you seen Supernatural? No. Sharkster says, can I gift you? Yeah, you can. Silly says, goon. That would get me banned. Thank you again to Shadow Plays for the Chuck E. Cheese coin gift. Mr. Baba says, I goon to LeBron James. Okay. Your boy says, what's another variation of Don I should do? Another AI version of me? Maybe someone else can give you ideas in the chat. Give this guy ideas. Kai says, what's your favorite food? The cheeseburger. Dev says, bro just cares about money. Yeah. Alex says, do you like forests? Yeah, I do. Thank you, Denise's and Dylan, for the Chuck E. Cheese coins. Moore says, I have no mouth, and I must scream. Okay. Cinnamon says, show you dick. I don't want to get banned. Jake says I farted. Okay. Thank you, Sharkster, for the flow state. And I remember you saying, should I gift? It looks like you obeyed me, because I said yes to do that. Spunky super chats, choose my fast food dinner for tonight. Give me 1 second to think. VN says, dude, what is it, VN? Jonathan says, remember when we had fun last night? I do not remember that. Gled says, rate my profile picture. 1. Hezi says, hi. Hello, Hezi. Ark says, Don, I need your hole. I am not going to give that up. SN says, poop. I'm not doing that. Stone says, United States of Israel very soon. Okay. Thank you, Spunky. I get the impression, Spunky, that you are someone that likes fancy food, so I think you should go for something very, like, stupid, like chicken nuggets. How about McDonald's chicken nuggets? Lucas says, what is the longest word you know? Ultimately. Coakley says, poop. Okay. Ben says, hi. Hello, Ben. Thank you, Spunky. Timer extended. The Shoe says a bunch of stupid emojis. Alright. Roblox says, the fastest winds in a tornado was the Bill J. Creek. 1999. Okay. September says, I found your live stream again, by the way. I changed my YouTube name from September to Dipkins. Well, it looks like September right there. Ayo says, I love you. Thank you. Hayden says, 67. Alright. Just says, can you say Galifianakis? There you go, I tried. Cable says, rate my profile picture. 5. Luke says, Iowa. Okay. Cinnamon says, what you think about the N-word? I am not a fan of the N-word. I'm not a fan of racism in general. So. Molly says, hi. Hello, Molly. Carson says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's pretty. A minion. Minions are always kind of funny somehow. Thank you, Adrian Wagler, for the goat trophy, the idolatry trophy. I like to call it, like from the Bible. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. TTV says, what should I get, PS5 or Xbox? PS5. Jay says, do you like my profile picture? It's not bad. By the way, if you guys could, can you take a screenshot of my live stream and send it to me on Discord? I want to know how it looks like as a viewer. Spunky super chats, what sauce? 10-piece. Buffalo sauce. KM says, sent laughing disco. That's fake. Dusty says, rate my new profile picture. 1. I don't. Seb says, rate my profile. 1. Corbin says, rate my. Oh, that's a 0.5. Slick says, hi. Love from San Francisco. Thank you, Slick. CEO says, you didn't thank the heart snap gift. You're right. And this. Thank you, Jimmy, for the disco ball abomination, and Jenna Leonard for the finger snap thingamajig gift. Cute cat. Viper says, you like my profile picture? I don't even know what's going on. Looks like Assassin's Creed, though. Alphiac says, yeah. Hello, Alphiac. DX says, A. Okay. Gleg says, how dare you rate my profile picture 1? It's a little too aggressive. Thank you, Ben, for the 100 stars. Ahmed says, remember me? I'm the one who remind people to fart. No, I don't. Killer says, do you like Xbox? No. Axel says, how to fix my depression? Listen to music. Thank you, Slothy, for the flow state. Slothy the DJ. The Real says, have you beaten Minecraft on hardcore? I haven't. Juan says, do. What? The Deluxe says, tell me 5 reasons why I'm worth something. Well, I mean, just think of all the times of companionship you've had. I think that might prove it. Thank you, AK Bedrock, for the disco ball abomination. Jordan says, Don, do you remember me from yesterday? No. Why don't you put a profile picture up? Nibble says, you aren't holding your head this time. No extra brain power? I don't get the vibes right now. Bob says, say chicken nugget. There you go. Gritty says, LI. What's that? Danielson super chats. Hold still. Don, I'm about to finish. All over the wall. I mean, I'm not moving that much. It should. I don't know why you needed me to hold still. That's stupid. Froggy says, what's up? Hello, Froggy. And thank you, Danielson. Timer extended. YC says, do you remember me? No. Carter says, I gooned to Bonnie Blue. Okay. Socrates says, I pooped and maggots came out. What? That's not possible. Pixel says, rate my profile picture. 0.1. Thank you, Racing for VR, for the disco ball abomination. R2 says, hello, homie. Hello, R2. Hemlick says death by Torta. I already read that. Eli says rate my profile picture. It looks like AI. It may not be AI, but it just looks like it. Damler says what's the best color ever? Red. Coco says how old are you? I'm an adult. Distorted says I'm going plane spotting. Oh, that sounds fun. Vulcan says what is your favorite car brand? Honda. Thank you, Frem Mimosas, for the Disco Ball Abomination. I see I show speed right there. Scoot says rate my profile picture. Oh, that's a cool picture. Scooter. Ginger says hello. Hello, Ginger. Your boy says no one gave me ideas, so now you're eating your favorite food. Thank you. I'm sorry no one gave you ideas. That sucks. Someone give this guy an idea of like an AI image of me to do. Someone give him an idea. Vivrio says, do you remember me? No, I don't. Birth says, I'm hungry. Okay. Vivio says, rate. I already read that. Teresa says, hi. Hello, Teresa. Pi says, did you watch the World Cup? No, I don't care about that. Killer says, disco. What about disco? Jam says, you suck. Alright. Arthur says, rate my new profile picture, Donnie Dick. I give it a 1. It's pretty uncreative. Coakley says, rate my profile picture. I don't like it. Spunky says, sent on Discord. Thank you. I want to improve the whole setup. Sophie says, what is your favorite MJ song? My favorite MJ song is, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Mika says, super chats, do you think Mr. B knew you would become such a celebrity? I don't know who Mr. B is. Are you trying to are you talking about yourself or like my father? Damien says rate my profile picture. 1. 4 says rate my profile picture. It's too zoomed out. Luke says Minecraft is the best. Yeah, it is. CMR says hydrate. I'm not thirsty right now. TS says what is your favorite movie? Eyes Wide Shut. Eyes Wide. Thank you, Michael, for the super chat. Timer extended. Mister says rate my profile picture. Oh, I don't like it. Ramon super chats, bro. If you can't show the hog, at least show the outline. Also, I sent the HiMat link in Discord. Thank you. I really want to watch this show, so thanks. I'll check it out. Timer extended. YC says rate my profile picture. 5. King says rate my idea. I don't know what that looks like. Scott says what's up. Hello, Scott. Callum says, do you like e-scooters? I do not. Amelia says, do you like my profile picture? It's me. And no, I don't. Wolf says, have you bought a Jimmy John's pizza sub for $5.99? No. I've eaten at Subway, though. Jakey says, whoa. Alright. Weston says, rate my profile picture. 1. Hamza says, my arm got healed. Okay. Carter says, horse cum. Okay. Dusty says, how do I make videos on YouTube? Okay. Michael super chats, I think Mr. B knew. Okay. That's interesting. Pretty interesting. James says you're gay. Alright. Oliver says hi. Hello, Oliver. Julian says Aya. Alright. Young says, how do I know by masturbating? Wilder says, yo, just stop the rate my profile picture. Yeah, it can get annoying. Piano says, how are you? I'm good. Annoying says, rate my profile picture. Looks pretty disgusting. Killer says, why are they hiding the files? I mean, as far as I know, they released them. The Black says, maybe if you condemn it hard enough, it'll go away. I mean, I think it does something. I condemn your profile picture. Miriam says hi. Hello, Miriam. Cape says, melting face emoji. Okay. Moy says, hi, remember me? No, I don't. Thank you, AK, for the Disco Ball Abomination. Schizo guy says, will you please do a gaming live stream? No, that would suck. Avery says, it was my birthday a few days ago. Okay, happy late birthday. John says, Stan Luna. I don't know who that is. Spider says, do you like Avatar The Last Airbender? I do. Well, I used to at least. Ava says, remember me? No, I don't. Miss says, you sound like John Casterline. Well, I don't like that guy, so that... Spunky says, I think you missed a green super chat. Yeah, I did. Did I? I missed this one. Danielson super chats, testosterone is a cure to depression. Not lying. I've heard about that. But it sounds off, in my opinion. Timer extended. Busy says hi, hello Busy. Adrian says remember me? No, I do not. Skylar says who is your favorite YouTuber? I like SalC1. Porma2 says I think you missed a dark blue super chat. Maybe. Doggy says hello M. Hello. Beer says red face emoji, wave emoji, hello. Billy says rate my profile picture. Oh, that's me. That's cute. Cmar says donated 100,000. Okay. All right. Crystal says hi. Hello, Crystal. Francisco says hi. Hello, Francisco. Thank you, Ben, for the stupid little 100 things. 23 of them. Thank you. Game says rate my profile picture. It's too close up. Leo says hi. Hello, Leo. Blubby says guess what my profile picture is. I don't know, but it looks pretty stupid. Blitz says do you believe in God? No, I don't. Nathan says is there a kid in your basement? No. 5 says did you ever play Clash Royale? Yeah, unfortunately. Joel says hi Don. Hello person that watched Eyes Wide Shut recently. Tech says gay. Alright. Mario says do you remember me? Yeah, I do. Yesera says do you know Don Tolliver now? E says have you ever tried boiled and pickled rectum? Like anus? No, I haven't. Fitness says God bless you, bro. Thank you, Fitness. And thank you, Wind, for the Chuck E. Cheese coins. 5 of them. Fred says you're my favorite YouTuber. Thank you. Birth says help. I am stuck in his basement. I don't kidnap people. Vic says rate my profile picture. 1. Holy says add a dedicated shot button. I don't know what you mean. Tell me about it. Don says yo dude, what's up? It's you from the other universe, remember? Yeah, I do remember. That's cool. Mexican me eating a donut. I think a taco would be better, though. Mod says hi again. Hello, Mod. King says rate my profile picture. 1. Nico says, what do you think happens after death? I think it's a complete mystery. Thank you, Ben Men, for the American Eagle. And I see your profile is a Mexican flag. Mexican. Okay. Thank you, Ben. Arthur says, do you like this profile picture? That's pretty funny. Mai says, rate my profile. QCat. PA says, rate my. I don't like it. Jonathan says, yo, why did the cow cross the road? Because it was you, little daddy. I don't know what that you're saying. Kiwi says, okay. James says, freestyle right now. I don't freestyle. Anna says, rate my profile picture. I don't like anime. CMR says, donated 100,000. That's fake. Nicholas says rate my profile picture 1. Triv says rate my. I don't like it. I don't like landscapes as profile pictures personally. Thank you, Jakey, for the 47 preschool stars. Surfboard says hey Don. Hello, Surfboard. Your kiddo says rate my profile. Oh, that's terrible. I hate it. Glitch says rate the pattern in my profile picture. That's cool. Dark says hey, I live at something something. No comment. Thank you, Werner, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin, and Cat's Eye for the 6-7 abomination. Ella says hi again, Don. Hello, Ella. Jordan says, have you been in Ohio? I haven't. Static says, what about my profile picture? That's really cool. AJ says, dick. Okay. Stitch says, so you are basically speedrunning questions? Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Jackson says, Don, Sahur. Okay. Bayon says, love you. And thank you. Adrian says rate my pro. I don't like it. Francisco says you can call me Francis. Thank you. I might do that. Solar says do you remember me? No, I don't. James says where do you think LeBron is going? I don't know. I don't care about basketball. Selma says what's up bro? Let's do a raid. Not right now. Thank you Jessica Bronze for the Uncle-ert gift. Marie says oi. Hello. Bayon says you're a good YouTuber. Thank you. Alice says rate my profile. I don't like it. Nathaniel says let us see the headset dent. I don't have one. Sniper says what is an apple? It's a fruit. Roblox says the biggest tornado was the El Reno 2013 at 2.6 miles wide. 2.6? I wonder what that looked like. That's crazy. Thank you Jessica for the second Uncle-ert and Undercooked for the disco ball abomination. Pickle says do you like any swords? No, I don't. Aeno says, are not a boycott. Can you spell correctly, please? And Alf says, huz. What? Michael says, yesterday was my birthday. Can you rate my profile picture? Your drawing is bad, but it's good that you're trying. Thank you, Gene, for the Uncle Alert gift. Doggy says, how's your day? Pretty good. Jack says, rate my profile picture. Well, it's kind of a boring picture. Tang says, hi bro, are you Christian? No. Jakey says, my sneeze killed 10... Well, that's not the proper way to use commas. That people on Jupiter, that's not real. Forever says, thanks Don. You're welcome for whatever. Jupiter says, do you like my profile picture? No, I don't. Jace G super chats, I'm greening out right now. Oi. I don't know what that means. Is that slang for hallucinating? Doggy says, how's your day? Good. Pitt says, rate my profile picture. Why would you have text in your profile picture? Like multiple sentences. That's so stupid. Thank you, Jace. Timer extended. H3 says TV. What about it? James says, what's your favorite sport? Basketball. Beer says, will you give me double pink eye? No, I'm not into anus stuff. New Mexico super chats. Don, can you rate my profile picture? It's the World Trade Center. Oh, I can kind of see it. It's like, it's hard to even tell that it's the World Trade Center. It's an interesting. I like it. It's kind of abstract, the angle that you did. Timer extended. Olive says, this music is like sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, but happier somehow. Yeah. I don't like that. I don't know if I like that. I think I should change it. Lego says, do you like Lego? No. Ayo says, what is your favorite food? The cheeseburger. Bob says, Donnie Donnie, yes papa. Eating sugar, no papa. What kind of stupid stuff is that? Yesra says, you gotta listen to Don Tolliver Gang. No, it probably is terrible. I'm Joe says, have you ever smiled on stream? Yeah, I have. Many times. Thank you, Junior. Lucas for the press F. Undercooked. Thank you. Viru says, rate my profile picture. And I'll subscribe. Actually, keep your subscribe. Leave the stream, I don't care. Deborah says hello. Hello, Deborah. Surfboard says, Don rebukes butt stuff. I don't condemn it, it's just not my style. I like says, have you been to Washington? I haven't. Don says, did you ever try shoving a cucumber up your ass? No. Silly says, remember me? I do. I think you've super chatted before. Thank you again, New Mexico. And Genevieve Sawyer for the super chats and gifts. Boss says, hi. Hello, boss. FL says, why are you always in a bad mood? Just my personality, dude. Fish says, rate my profile picture. I can't even tell what's going on. JR says, is 3 + 3 7? No. BMW says, I'm returning MetaQuest 3 PC. Okay, whatever that means. Your probably says, how long have you been doing this kind of streaming? Since September. Thank you, EJ Prods, for the Uncle Alert. And Giovanni Lopez for the Disco Ball Abomination. Ashlyn says, I condemn your chat message. Okay. Surfboard says, Dado, you think you're fun at parties? It depends what kind of party. Jace super chats, rest in peace, Dreamy Bull. Yeah, I mean, I don't know him, but rest in peace to any dead people. Yeah. Annoying says, frog come. Okay. Thank you, Giovanni, for the 6 plastic flowers. Brander says, how your day? Left from Texas. It's going good. Troy says, hi, smile. Not doing that. Melanie says, how do you get gems? By paying for them. AN1 says, rate my profile picture. 3. Amir YouTube super chats, $1 American. Thank you. Amir YouTube 2026. Ayo says, rate my profile picture. Sorry, I don't want to. Melanie says, do you like Melanie Martinez? I haven't listened to them. Thank you, Giovanni Lopez, for this cringy finger thing. I appreciate it. HUD says, favorite game. That game right there. Orca says, is this doing this really healthy? It's probably just as bad as doom scrolling as you are now. Ark says, Don, what's your girth? That's private. Keep says, what kind of music do you listen to? I don't listen to music nowadays. I gotta get back into it though. Thank you, Giovanni, for the flow state. Frem says, what do you think about former California governor and actor? I liked Terminator. Doggy says, why do you sound so sad? Because, I don't know, man. Boss says, hi. Hello, boss. Doggy says, what? I already read that. Porma2 says, I bet it's pear-shaped. No comment. Thank you, Genevieve Sawyer, for the Uncle Alert. I appreciate your gifts. Yesra says, nah, broski. Don't be hating on Don Tolliver. I'll hate anyways. Really says, my friend is telling you to shut the fuck up, and he called you a dirty broke Jew. Okay, I condemn him. Michael says, do you like my new profile picture? I do not. Brooklyn says, rate my profile picture 1 to 10. I'm going lower than that. I'm going 0.5. Tristan says, what time is it for you? It's in the PM. Ramon super chats, if you could choose wheels for feet or a thicker and larger hoggy, which would you choose? Wheels for feet sounds just inconvenient, so I might have to do the latter. Boss says, rate my profile picture. 3. TG says, hello TG. Left says, what's your name? Don. Nathan says, I ate my shit and it tastes like you. You haven't tasted me. Kapu says, why are you calling me Kape? Because I don't have time to figure out pronunciations. LR says, hi, I'm gay. That's cool, LR. XCat says, did you clap with Diddy? I did not. Thank you, Elijah, for the artificial flower, and Genevieve Forto for the disco ball. Game says, don't stay up, kids. Okay. Reality says, hi, hello, Reality. Bloodthirsty says, hello, Dr. Don Benitez. Julio Stamis the 4th. No comment. Giovanni says, rate my profile picture. Well, it's always wholesome seeing two people standing together. But other than that, it's kind of corny. Like, I don't like anime or VR chat. Wisty says, rate my username. Wisty's a cool name. Flippy says, have you ever played No Man's Sky? I haven't. Bald says, remember me? Yes. Kapu says, reasonable. Thank you. David says, I'm Israeli Jew. Alright. No Internet says, fake. Sent 100 joules. Okay. PX says, where are the hoes at, Don? Not here. Forever says, buffering emoji. I hope it's not lagging. James says, Lamine Yamal. Okay. Yuki says, hello, I'm not sure you remember me from the previous stream, but what you said to me meant a lot, and I ultimately decided not to kill myself. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I hope you stay in a good headspace. Yasin says, you didn't see the question. Get to the point next time, dude. Love says, are you really a Jew? I'm not Jewish. Sane says, triple T. Okay. Thank you, game, for the disco ball abomination. Tongue says, rate my profile picture. Too close up. God says, rate my profile. I don't like it. Junior says, your profile sucks. King says, are you gay? No. Official says, yo, hello, official. Bray says, sup, bro, how are you? I'm good. Adrian says, remember me? No. X4 says, sup, bro. Hello, X4. Sheriff says, if you were to die right now, who do you think would stand the longest at your grave and why? I'm not getting into that. JX says, can we play Fortnite? No. Tell says, do you purple monkey applesauce? I don't know what that means. Cactus says, you are gay. I am not gay. Your kiddo says, rate my profile picture. It's a little too gross. Bald says, what do you remember about me? I just remember seeing your profile picture before. Heteno says, you should play RDR2. I already have. JR says, mean. I'm just being honest. Pinky says, Einstein. Crackhead teen. Yeah, that's me. Odd says, rate my profile picture. 3. Anime says, wipe or let it cross. No comment. Yesro says, get the Jews out of here, gang. I condemn your chat message. Thank you again, game, for the disco ball gift thing. Major says, you're corny. Alright. Funny says, rate my profile picture. I don't like it. Ricky says, hello. Hello, Ricky. Don says, loved our date yesterday, Don, but my butthole still hurt. We never had anal sex. Roblox says, the tornado outbreak in 2011 has over 500 tornadoes in one day. I wonder why there was an outbreak specifically in that year. Brandon says, my dog's still not good. Okay. Parker says, rate my profile picture 1 to 10. 2. Christy says, knock knock. Who's there? Kayleigh says, will you ever do a gaming stream? Probably not. Your boy says, no one wants to contribute, so now you're rating a profile picture, please. Don, give me your own idea. Okay, give me a second to think. Dancing says, hi. Hello, Dancing. Aaron says, rate my profile picture, please. I don't like it. Sane says, do you love Deltarune? No, I don't. Bullseye says, rate my profile picture. 1. Bob says, can you say chicken nugget? There you go. Jakey says, rate my profile picture. It's corny. Kaylee says, hi, hello, Kaylee. Thank you again, AKRH, for the disco ball. And I see that silly K-pop profile picture of yours. Bald says, lol, isn't my profile picture lovely? Well, it's memorable. Super says, bruz or huz? The latter. E says, who's your dealer? No comment. Call me says, what was your lowest grade when you were in school? F. Keep says, what games you be playing? Nothing. Spunky says, never had the McDonald's buffalo sauce. Good choice, Donald. Okay. I'm glad I introduced you to something new. Boss says, hi. Hello, boss. Massive says, clap. No. Thank you, 18MMMMM2GGs for the disco ball abomination. Jay Acosta says, rate my profile picture. Terrible. Ken Boss says, baby oil. What about it? Alexander says, hi. Hello, Alexander. Dancing says, I make Lego Tornado Interceptors. I don't know what that is, but it sounds interesting. Thank you, 18M, for the second disco ball abomination. Brandon says, you're a jerk, bro. Alright. Vex says, rate my profile picture. Cringy, cool kid Fortnite stuff. That one guy super chats, corn makes my no square sweat. It makes your anus sweat? Okay, I didn't need to know that. Alright. Buddy says, rate my profile picture. AI slop. Jessica says, what's your favorite game? Minecraft. Vic says, what's your favorite color in the alphabet? I don't get that question. Alex Clark super chats, why did you get an F and what class? I got it in math because I hated math, thought it was boring. Just says, drink fresh cold water. Not right now. Sweden says, hi. Hello, Sweden. Jackson says, hi. Rate my profile picture. 1. Mr. Jackson says, eagle emoji. Okay. And I think it was geometry. Everly says, your eyes look red. You good? I am good. MC says, hi. Hello, MC. FNAF says, Minecraft Bedrock. What about it? Spunky Gooner super chats, liar Don for 2 minutes. Okay, fine. For the next 2 minutes or so, I'm going to be lying a little bit. Lies here and there. Surfboard says, Ramon is weird but generous. Yeah. Leon says, rate my profile picture, please. I'm going to give it a 9. It kind of reminds me of Jax. I love Jax from that Digital Circus show. Vivio says, I see you. I see you too, dude. Jenna says, you like my profile picture? Yeah, I do. Cute cats are awesome. Broad says, fix Mojang Bedrock. I think it's... I don't think there's too many bugs in it. Hatinho says, have you finished RDR2 though? Yeah, I have. It's my favorite game. Shawnee says, do you play sports? Yeah, I'm big into soccer. Alex says, rate my profile picture. 8. I am says, rate my profile picture. Oh, dude, I love Undertale. That's another 8 right there. Elementary says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's cool. Pinhead thing. Joel says, are you gay? I am gay, dude. Someone says, dude, go outside. Not right now. Lord says, rate my profile picture. 9. I love the color. Bullseye's his favorite songs. I love the Interstellar theme. Lewis says, hi. Hello, Lewis. The first captain says, oh, he's lying again. Yeah. Gray says, you predicted World Cup. I did. Robo says, rate my profile picture. 9. That's so cool. Moy says, Bibles. What about Bibles? Your kiddo says, rate my profile picture. Oh, hey, that's me. Dude, I appreciate you for making your profile picture me. That's a 10 right there. If you make your profile picture me, I'm giving you a definite 10 because I appreciate it. Ruck says, is there raid today? I don't know. Poke says, you Christian? Yes. Who says, are you an atheist? I am not an atheist. Kaysen says, gay. I am gay. Lil says, rate my profile picture. That's so cute, dude. Junior says, isn't Michael Jackson the GOAT? No, I'm into Drake. Really says, do you love the Amazing Digital Circus? Yeah, best show ever. Concrete says, you look like McTon. Yeah, I do. Mo says, auto time, my bad. I don't know what you're saying. Fave says, have you played Half-Life 1? I honestly have played Half-Life 1, yeah. Eli says, rate my profile picture. Cutest dog ever. The Hawk says, what are your thoughts on Iranian ejaculate missiles? I haven't heard about that. All says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's all. I love Silk Song. That's a 8. Jenny says, rate my profile picture. 9. Philly says, are you actually gay? Yeah, I am gay. 4 says, rate my profile picture. 10. Con says, what number am I thinking from 1 to 10? You're thinking an 8. Thank you, Nur, for the eagle. Umbreon says, what's your favorite fast food? I'm a huge fan of, what are they called? Fish fillet sandwiches from McDonald's. Aaron says, rate my profile picture. 9. Nay says, yo, you have way more motion. Yeah, I do. Thank you, Nur, for the flow state. The first captain says chocolate is the best, right? Yeah, it is. I love chocolate. YC says rate my pet chicken. I don't know what that looks like. Hay says corny comments. Yeah. Everly says what's your favorite episode of the Amazing Digital Circus? I'm more of a I think it got worse as it went on. I think the first episode is probably the best, you know. Thank you, Poop is Pooping, for the flow state. Al says, what is corn? It's a food. Bray says, ever played FNAF? Yeah, I played all the games. V-Ball says, do you like Fortnite? I don't. Banana says, if you had one piece of advice for this current generation, what would it be? To spend less time on the internet. Sari says, hello. Hello, Sari. Thank you, G5, for the flow state. Not actually says, what's your opinion on Doki Doki Literature Club? It's a fun thing. I love how cute all the characters are in that game. Jorge says, which country you learned first? What? VV says, well, super chats, I clicked you saying that you were actually gay. Whoa, that's crazy, dude. You got me worried now. Oh my gosh. Aya says, are you old? I am. Really says, go back to lying, please. I've never stopped, but now I'm gonna stop now. Thank you, V, for the super chat. And for the record, for the last like 3 minutes or so, I was lying a lot. I wasn't being myself. I was kind of playing a character. But now I'm going back to being more honest. Kobe says, can you oral up? No. Emmett says, Don, I'm back. Hello, Emmett. Spy says, thoughts on unstable SMP? I'm not into Minecraft server slot. Thank you, Mick, for the preschool star. Thank you. The first captain says, you're going to give me oats this time, right? No. I'm not a liar anymore, so no. Fossil says, okay. Lily says, don't rate my profile picture. Sounds good. Fossil says, okay, I get it, dude. Gray says, you predicted World Cup. Yeah, you already told me that. Lewis says, Kenny S message. I don't know what you're saying. Nathan says, do you eat shit? No, I don't. Jay Acosta says, rate my profile picture. I already did that, dude. Void says, are you happy? Yes. By the way, pretty soon I'm going to bring back that software that lets me choose certain people more often. I've been having trouble with it, so. Bald says, laughing emoji, the highest profile picture rating I've ever gotten from you is the 3 lol. That makes sense. I'm says, do you stream because you want to or so you can earn money from super chats? Money is the main factor. GM says, rate my profile picture. Horrible, dude. Super says, are you a scammer? No. Land says, I'm black. Alright. Dictator says, who is in my profile picture? Mbappe. Your username, give it away. Joel says, rate my profile picture. I don't like it. The Ruck says, do you play Roblox? No. Hell no. Really says, you gave Slop Top once? No. Parker says, why? Okay, probably don't. Dude, what are you saying? You're so annoying. Grayson says, you are the name 10 books. No, that's stupid. Mick says, rate my profile picture. Lame. Dictator says, Dictator Mbappe is Aura. Yeah, I guess. Alina says, a dog that's a animal. You're correct. Bacon says, are you LARPing yourself because you sound happier? No. Noah says, are you gay? No. But isn't that guy gay? Gray says, how big is it? None of your business. PJ says, do you play Minecraft now? Ben super chats, I love you, bro. Stay safe. I wish you the best. Thank you, Ben has a few pens. I appreciate the stay safe. Wishing me the best. Thank you. I wish you the best as well. Op says, win the day reveal. Never. X4 says, rate my profile picture. 0.5. Lucas says, tongues to her. Alright. The Green says, who's your favorite soccer player? I don't care about any of them. Who cares about soccer? Cowboy says, thank you. I appreciate it. You're welcome for whatever the hell you're talking about. Dustin says, hey bestie. Hello, Dustin. I love says, do you like somber? No way. JR says, you're my Sunyan. Okay. Someone says, so this guy just reads texts for a living? Yeah, I do this every day. Fim says, what's your favorite cheese? American. Ha says, how much is your headset? It was $20. Thank you again to G50 Rides for the flow state. Thank you for the gift. Bullseye says, are you going live later? Probably tomorrow. Jackson says, rate my profile picture again. 4. Alex says, NPC comment. Okay. V-Ball says, do you like Frank Ocean? No, I don't. Dustin says, how much was your monitor? Well, the TV behind me, I don't know how much it cost. Silly says, bro, bye. See ya, silly. That one guy super chats, feet cheese is the best cheese. I would disagree. That just sounds disgusting, and it's probably not healthy. I don't know why you're into that. Ruck says, so you said you were gay, but were you lying? Yes. Gooby says, you're the king of the union rings. Okay, whatever that means. Owen says, rate my profile picture out of 10. Boring, unoriginal. MM says, rate my profile picture. Too cute and corny. Bowman says, applesauce. I don't like it. Gabriel says, ha ha. Okay. Ka says, I think I know why he doesn't have a girl. Okay. 25-cent fake uncler. Okay. Carter says, goon. No. EJ says, the Amazing Digital Circus equals trash. Yeah, I agree. Ollie says, your hair looks longer. Yeah, that's how hair works. Somber says, why don't you like Somber? Because whenever I hear, like, that one song, Back to Being Friends, I want to rip off my ears. BR says, do you like/no Danganronpa? I don't know what that is. And X says, what's your favorite show? I don't know. All the shows I've watched sucked. CJ says, built like a rock. Okay. Snowy says, go get a haircut. Yeah, eventually. Uneatable says, I love the amazing CD. I don't know what that is. X says, rate my profile picture. 0.5. That one guy super chats, what is gooning? PS, drink water. Gooning is prolonged masturbation. 1 second, please. MM says, yo bro, I like your streams. Have an amazing day. Thank you. That one says, rate my profile picture. 2. Ann says, you ever watch The Big Lebowski? No, but it's on my list. Rai says, what your thoughts on e-bikes/dirt bikes? Unsafe. Oscar says, what is your favorite rock band? I like Radiohead. Thank you, that one guy, for the super chat. Timer extended. Super says, hi, hello, super. Nick says, gooning is edging. Yeah. Leo says, what's up? Ignore the haters. Thank you. Surfboard says, sorry, I just now hit the like. I don't care. Nip says, rate my profile picture or else. 0.5. Mohammed says, did you play Amanda the Adventure? No, I did not. Color says, ever watch RWBY? No. No clue what that is. Forever says, rate my profile picture. 2. Thank you, Nip in the Trench for the flow state. That's kind of funny how I rated your profile picture like a 1, and then you go ahead and give me money. Thank you. Hudson says hi. Hello, Hudson. Kyle says, rate my profile picture. 1. Why is it looks like it's taken on a phone camera. You should do a Minecraft screenshot instead. Glitch says, do you sleep? Yes. N says, what does it take to get a 10 out of 10 profile picture rating? I don't know. I just go off of feeling and vibes. It's not a science. Everett super chats, what's your opinion on how the Grinch Stole Christmas 2000 version? I remember watching it as a kid and I didn't like it. I don't remember why I didn't like it. I don't know. I heard it was, yeah, sorry. Muhammad says, rate my profile picture. 1. Void says, rate my, oh, that's terrible. Starlight says, show us your tip at least. No, that's stupid. Kennedy says, rate my profile picture. No, doing that makes me uncomfortable. Shrish says, can you take a screenshot with your butt cheeks? No. Thank you, Ryan, for the plastic flower. Elite says, remember me from yesterday? No, I don't. Your entire profile is just an NPC, like, so unforgettable. Amanda says, do you like Fortnite? A little bit. Jackson says, hi, bye. See ya, Jackson. Party Man says, hi, hello, Party Man. Dictator says, name 2 England soccer players. I can't. Cold Slayer says, got coke? No. Official says, Dawn is in a super good mood today. Yeah, maybe. Nilla says, see ya. Stem says, the pistol is flower vag. Okay. MM says, why the fuck do you say my comments so corny? Because I think they're corny. Phil says, oil me up, fatty. No. Dictator says, bye, I got to go. See ya, Dictator. Kyle says, pla. Alright. Zombie says, hi, hello, Zombie. Captain says, favorite soda? Coke. Alex says, rate my profile picture, but without lying this time. I'd give it a 1. The border seems unnecessary and, like, pretentious. It's Waffle says, how much money do you make a stream? I make at least $30 an hour. Connor says, why do you look like a Diddy victim? I don't know, dude. Thank you, Corb's Mindset, for the Uncle Alert thing. Gray says, bro, God loves you. Have a good day. Thank you. Spunky Super Chat. Spunky Super Chat's Brutally Honest Don. Yeah, that's the vibe nowadays, right now. I don't know why that is, but that's the case right now. Timer extended. And, thank you, Everett. Timer extended. Ari says smiley face. Okay. Ta says hi. Hello, Ta. Thank you, Corb, for the Disco Ball Abomination. And Teha Scobs for the sunshine stupid thing. By the way, this guy was in my streams, like my first streams, like my first day of streaming ever, September 2nd. He was there, so that's cool. Red says, can I show my tip? I don't want to see that. Void says, top 3 favorite movie, Eyes Wide Shut. We Love says, do you remember me? I do not remember you. Guy says, would you crack the school bot? No comment. Grayson says, what games do you play? I play Minecraft. Lazy says, more about to go. What? Irish says, have you ever played Phasmophobia? No. Keep says, are you a virgin? No comment. By the way, again, yeah. So this guy's one of my first viewers. That's cool. I remember I did a 10-minute stream, and through all of it, he was like the only viewer, the only guy talking, so that was something. Callie says, your hair is nice, thank you. Plus says, are you stoned? I am not stoned. Khan says, sup, hello Khan. Everett Super Chats, who do you prefer, Terminator, T-800, or RoboCop? I prefer Terminator. I watched Terminator 2 in the theaters, and that was quite the experience. Timer extended. Leo says, I can see why he was the only viewer. Okay. Minus says, is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable? A fruit. Mister says, rate my FPD. Maybe if you spell correctly. Sora says, I'm about to touch you. No, you're not. Soul says, do you know Memo Achia? No, I don't. Killakiza Super Chats, are you trans? I am not trans. Timer extended. Iman says, lol. Alright. Toast says, rate my profile picture. I hate gorilla tags, so it's a 1. Lurk says, vegetables aren't real. No, they're real. Lilia says, any tips for 2nd grade? You should leave the stream because this channel's not for your age range. Dictator says, where is your family? No comment. Albus says, do you post anything else other than slop on another channel? I work on videos, but I have yet to publish them. GMS says, remember me? No, I don't. Respect says, rate my profile picture. 1. Fixit says, duh. Okay. Thank you, it's Mr. Jax, for the 2 sunshines. I appreciate it. Jeremiah says, he. What? Lil Big says, good morning from Australia, Don. Hello, Lil Big. Trish says, can you show us some tips and tricks? I don't catch your drift. GMS says, remember me now? No, I don't. Nip says, love your content, dude. Thank you. Spunky says, fuck people's feelings. The truth hurts sometimes. I wouldn't go as far to say that. I don't know how I feel about how I act sometimes. EX says, do you remember me? No, I don't. Surfboard says, I'm out. Later, Don. See ya, Surfboard. Fixit says, I think you're cool. Thank you. Just says, what's good? Have a good day? Yeah, I did. Dr. Kai says, what about this time? What about this time? Frankie says, hypothetically, if a snake bit me, like, ow, it hurts so bad, would you suck it out? Probably not. That seems just far too intimate and gross. Radiance says, hi. Hello, Radiance. Khan says, best YouTuber. Thank you. Bob says, skibbity toilet. Okay. Carl says, rate my profile picture out of 10. The pixelated filter is interesting. Out of 10,000, I'd give it a 6,000. JD says, do you like Star Wars? No, I don't. It's Vox says, love the hair today. Thank you. Little Big Duels, Super Chats, call me Duels. Content you're interested in making? I'm interested in vlogs, but vlogs in a style I can't describe. It's something that hasn't been done before. Yeah, but vlogs. Thank you, Lil. Big duels. Duels. Timer extended. Dylan says, remember me? No, I don't. Nick says it's fake. What's fake? Dinger says, hi. You were the first creator I watch. Okay. Ruck says, try saying my name fully, please. Ruck Manara Massami. Jeremiah says, bro, what do you do if my water bottle starts walking my cat? You should pinch yourself. Respect says, respect 7 send sunshine, that's fake. Unified says, show some skin, babes. No, I'm not into that. Thank you, Devin Woodbye, for the American Eagle, and Alu Akbar for the Disco Ball Abomination. Kelly says, are you gay? No. Michael says, if Terminator T-800 and Terminator T-1000 fought, who would win? I'm guessing it's like the blonde guy versus the Arnold. I don't remember the names. I imagine Arnold would win. JJ says, rate my profile picture. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. Everett super chats, what's a movie you believe is overrated? Obsession. Dictator says, do you have a cat? I do not. Thank you, Everett. Timer extended. Real says, I'm the Dunder. Alright. Duel says, sounds cool. I'll check it out when you release it. Yeah. It might be years, though. Beer says, do you want to see my penis? Hell no. Thank you, Joshua, for the Uncle Alert. And I don't know, dude, for the disco. And I don't know for the Uncle Alert. Aries says, rate my profile picture. Your dog looks sad. Flora says, gay die. Okay. Real says, I am. You are what? ER says, why do you do this every day? For money. Livestream says, you love cats? No. Roblox says, I'm Diddy. Okay. Thank you, free bands, for the flow state. Aries says, what did you rate it? I don't know, 4. Thank you, Orange, for the stupid turtle drinking water. I'll drink water myself in honor of your gift. 1 second. Thank you, Devin, for this stupid little watermelon wearing glasses. Thank you. This corny watermelon. Ash says 21 pilots. Okay. Flora says BMBH. Alright. Clean says, what's your favorite video game? Assassin's Creed 3 is fun. Porma 2 says, using the barn cat as a spaghetti bib. That's cute. Rival says, stay hydrated. Thank you. I'll try to do that. Ranger says, rate my profile picture. 1. Yellow says, if you played VR, what game would it be and why? Didn't you already ask that? Respect says, what do you think of Pakistan? I heard it was polluted. Trish says, do your parents both have their teeth still? No comment. Thank you again, Devin, for the watermelon. Just says, profile picture rate out of 10. It's cool. I mean, kind of boring though. I've seen the moon a lot already. Boxing says, what is up, Don? Hello, Boxing. Thank you, Cream, for the 100 stars, and Devin for the moldy Sunday. Gray says, Homer, let the Barts out. Alright. Human says, what are your thoughts on Genshin Impact? It's a game for pedophiles. I'm just kidding. That was a big exaggeration. JB says, what's your ethnicity? Hispanic. Mister says, Diddy Don. Okay. Dictator says, Don. There's someone named Don. There's lots of people named Don. Thank you, Mads, for the turtle drinking water. I'll drink some more. 1 second, please. I want to kill that turtle. Martez says, does my profile picture look sophisticated? Yeah, it does. Miss says, hi. Hello, Miss. Pronounce says, Alice is best girl on Seo. I don't watch Seo. Dorito says, you like Last of Us? I think it's a fun story. Alien says, rate my profile picture. It looks bad. Jaco says, hi. Hello, Jaco. Cat says, tape my profile picture. Spell correctly and I might do it. Jet says, the water drinking noise is hot. Oh. I did not mean to get that on the mic. I'll make sure that doesn't happen. Ramsey says, fun fact, if your immune system knew you had eyes, it would make you go blind. Oh yeah, I did hear about that. Fortnite says hello. Hello, Fortnite. Kate says, rate my profile picture. Oh, you spelled it correctly this time. I think it's boring. I don't like landscapes as profile pictures. Jason says, what's up? Hello, Jason. Sweepy says, will you suck my penis for $1 billion? No. Log says, why don't you like applesauce? Just tastes bad. Lurk says, you're like a cooler version of Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite. Thank you. Torment says, hi. Hello, Torment. Nippin says, do you like the band 21 Pilots? No. Crazy says, what's your favorite animal? The chimpanzee. Thank you again to Mads for the turtle drinking water. AJ says, oddly vegetable is just another way of saying plant. Almost everything we call a vegetable can be categorized differently. Okay, that is interesting. Money says, are you gay? I am not gay. Rock says, I broke my wrist. Oh, I'm sorry. Sma says, you like femboys? Not in particular. Just says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's really cute. The angle makes it really cute. Little says, do you like my profile picture, Dad? Oh, hey, it's me as a child. That kind of makes me uncomfortable. Lazy says, how long have you been doing this? For like an hour. Speaking of that, the timer is now locked. Super chats and gifts no longer increase the timer. I says, why are you so mean? I don't know, dude. Nox says, rate my profile picture out of 10. I don't like bulldogs. Toga says, can why? What? Twu says, are you sad that Oliver Tree died? I'm sad when anyone dies. Willow says, do you remember me from yesterday? No, I do not. Nope. And why would I? You have no profile picture. No, don't remember you. Addie says, can you say sorry to my dog? No, I don't care. Minty says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's cool. A guy with a fish. Ellie says, I love your content, Daddy. Thank you. Official says, rate my profile picture out of 10. Definitely 0.5. Dax says, rate my profile picture. I don't like it. Bosnian says, my peanut tickles a peanut. Okay, you're just saying nonsense. Thank you, Wade, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. Miss says, do you like Final Destination? No. I don't like gore. Master says, do you like my Tatio emoto? I don't know what that is. Luke says, hi, Mommy. Hello, Luke. Little says, you're so cool, Dad. Thank you, son. Rock says, do you click on every comment? Yes. Noah says, hello. Hello, Noah. Game says, rate my profile picture. It's a me. That's cool. Silly says, you like cat's eye? No, not at all. 5 Foot says, why didn't you end the stream like 20 minutes ago? Why would I have done that? Kit Kat says, read this if you're my good boy. I'm not your good boy. Orange says, did you hear about racial slur changing his career? No, I didn't. Kitty says, rate my profile picture out of 10. Kinda boring. Duck says, since you have a son in chat, can you adopt me? No. I wish I had never had a son. Reef says, how are you? I'm good. JC says, do you like BTS? No, it sucks. Anmal says, I am a kid. I'm a cute 5-year-old. Leave the stream. Ira says, hello, Don Chan. What does Chan mean? Little says, I'm so inspired by you, Dad. You disappoint me. Blake says, hi. Hello, Blake. Alexander says, read if you like men. Your comment doesn't have that power. Bell says, remember me on yesterday's stream? No, I don't. You're annoying. Leave the stream. Random says, ever since I watched you, my neck racial slur a lot. Okay. Best says, hi. Hello, Best. Thank you, Revel Blue Claw, for the GOAT trophy. Thank you, Revy Blue Claw. Gunter says, what's your favorite band? A band I like is Arcade Fire. Alice says, the cow's still staring at me. Wow. Minnie says, I'm Jason Duval. Yeah, you are. Yeah. Jeremy says, rate my profile picture. That scene makes me uncomfortable. Thank you, that football kid, for the trophy cake thing. Ugh, the trophy cake. Is this cake or is it real? Sprinkle says hi, Baka. Hello, Sprinkle. Rocky says hello there. Hello, Rocky. Lightning says rate my profile picture. Terrible. I hate whatever that is. I see that often. I hate it so much. Snake says, what music genre do you like? I like electronic instrumental. Kennedy says you suck. Okay. The Casual says, what is your favorite show or movie? I like Eyes Wide Shut. Frosted says, what's up? Hello, Frosted. Trish says, why do your parents have no teeth or dental coverage or drug addiction? No comment. Josh says, so what do you rate it? A 6. Jay Edit says, what do you think about Spain winning the World Cup? I think it's cool. Reaper says, do you like any video games? I like Minecraft. Snock says, do you like the name Ireland for a girl? No, that's stupid. Andrew says, what's up, neighbor? Hi. Kat says, I really like your content. Thank you, I appreciate it. Your kiddo says, bro, nobody gives a fuck if he sucks. Alright. Help says, want a sword fight like men? Like gay men? No. P7 says 67. Alright. Luna says, did you hear the Juice WRLD song Racial Slur? No, I didn't. Radin says, what is your racial slur? What? Jet says, hey Don, you like my little cat profile picture? Yeah, it's a little cute. Lucy says, Mickey Udeo, what's that? Pixel Super Chats, you heard Arcade Fire new album, Open Your Heart or Die Trying, playing it right now. Yeah, I did. I listened to it while simultaneously watching a movie, like a month ago. Little says, how do I touch grass? You go outside. Mimic says, rate my profile picture, 0.1. Peggy says, rate my profile picture 1 out of 10. Looks like AI slop. Thank you, Lyro, for the flow state. It's the pickle guy. Danny says, do you have a mommy? No comment. Thank you, Lyro, for the stupid cat DJing. Thank you. Kit Kat says, read this comment if you're racist. Your comment doesn't have that power. Coffer says, I subbed. Okay. Neptune says, rate my profile picture and do you like yourself? I like myself, yeah. Koro says, hi. Hello, Koro. Official says, don't you hate it when you drink soda and laugh, then it comes out your nose? That doesn't happen to me. The music says, I like Minecraft too. Okay, alright. Kit Kat says, my comment does have that lower. You can't even spell correctly. Goofy says, do you enjoy this? Yeah. Boxing says, rate your profile picture. I'd give it a 6. Thank you again, Lyro, for the little cat DJing. Thank you. Dude says, what would a good profile picture look like? I don't know, but I know it when I see it. Unfunny says, I like the stream idea. Thank you. Little says, I'm sad now. Why would you say that? You should have been aborted. It's Stormy says, hello. Hello, it's Stormy. Thank you, Nature, for the 6-7 abomination. Ira says, penis and anus. Okay. Official, already read that. Dude says, already read that too. You guys are annoying. Yura says, do you ever get tired of talking? Yes. AJ says, Chan like 4chan. But that doesn't explain anything. AJ, what does Chan actually mean? Westry Super Chats, you don't seem quiet yourself today. Don, remember Jesus loves you. Smile and take a deep breath. Romans 10:9. Thank you. But, yeah. That's not gonna work. I'm not believing. Little says, you should have been aborted. Well, if that was the case, then you wouldn't exist, so you want to die? Human says, Chan is a Japanese honorific. Okay, it means like sir. Levy says, hello. Hello, Levy. Kit Kat says, fuck off, Don. Okay. The Archive says, do you hate AI? When it's used, I mean, when it makes ugly things, yeah. Kyra says, hi. Hello, Kyra. Dem says, Hoya. Hello. I says, do you support the LGBTQ+? Yeah, I do. Speaking of that, thank you, Ramon, for the makeup brush. Duck says, please adopt me. No. Jay says, rate my profile picture. Oh, hey, that's interesting. It's me in like a church, and I'm being chased by an old man. That's alright. Miguel says, what's your favorite movie, Don? Eyes Wide Shut. Lou says, I love ChatGPT. I love chat. Okay, I do too. Mista says, do you hate doing this? No. I like the cash that I get from this. Edit says, Diddy. Alright. Boxing says, have you ever been in a fist fight? No. Nothing like that. Never been in a fight. Ryden says, what is your racial slur? I don't know what you're saying, dude. Peggy says, is it okay to have a Roblox profile picture? Yeah, but I'll personally respect you less. Miguel says, do you have pets? Yes. I am him says, homosexual pornography. Okay. Zen says, do you remember me? No. Thank you again to Lyro for the cat DJing. And I remember that episode. Smoothie says, how do you feel about people that use poly AI? I don't know what that is. Nino says hello. Hello, Nino. Kerr says, Donathan, I am late. Is that nickname good? No, it's not. Thank you. Well, I mean, as a nickname, I guess it is, but I don't like nicknames. User, thank you for the flow state. User ran on. Thank you. John Pork says hello. Hello, John Pork. Someone says, get a job. I don't talk about my job. The football says, would you consider adopting me as a son? No. Jimmy says, I'm OCD about my money. I'm sorry. Sion says, you look tired. You can end stream right now if you want, you know? Well, thank you, but I'm not tired. Willie says, penis. Okay. Julie says, do you speak other languages? No. Dude says, what would a good... I already answered that, dude. Stop being annoying. Trish says, so far, you have given as many comments about your parents' teeth as they have teeth. That's impressive. I don't get it. Cameron says hi. Hello, Cameron. Hungry says, what is your favorite country? The United States. Wit says, hopefully you get a good night. Thank you. Astro says, rate my profile picture. 1. Terrible. Liv says, hi, remember me? No, I don't. Kit Kat says, are you single? No comment. Clappy says, yo, bro. Just wanted to show you some real love for your stream, because you've genuinely got crazy potential. And I'd love to connect with you. A top Twitch streamer who pulls thousands of live viewers. Okay. Email me or contact me on Discord then. Glaze says PP. Okay. Carter says why? Why what? User says, do you like hunting and fishing? In Red Dead Redemption 2, yeah. Boxing says, am I a piece of shit for not supporting the LGBTQ? Yes. Someone says, what is that reading voice? Go outside. Not right now. One Booth says, do you get boners when you talk a lot? No. Beer says, you're such a sussy baka. Alright. Kerr says, Donito. That's even worse. I hate that one. The football says, would you consider adopting me as a son? No. Daniel says, am I gay? Daniel Dillinger? You sound gay. King says, remember me? I don't. By the way, Dylan, I wasn't being, like, mean. I was just being playful, kind of. Liv says, you are low-key so funny. Thank you. Alex says, are you always this grumpy? I'm grumpier than usual right now. Jerry says, why are you so dry? Just the way I am. Charlie says, please rate my profile picture. 5. Lucia says, take it or double it to the next person. Take it. Dawn says, what do you think of my profile picture? Oh, it's me. I'm gay. And I'm into black men. I don't really like it. The only thing I like is that I wish I had that build in real life, but I don't. Other than the build, I don't like it. Chill says, do you like chickens? I do not. Francisco says, hi. Hello, Francisco. Duck says, yo, you, bro, my friend just drowned. Oh, I'm sorry. Tam says, tomorrow's my birthday. Alright, happy early birthday. King says, my profile picture is fire, right? Yeah, it's cool. Month says, bro's personality is literally getting dried out by all this talking. Yeah, maybe. Thank you, Angel, for the preschool star. Kat says, rate my profile picture 1 to 5, please. 1. Angel says, hi. Hello, Angel. Boxing says, well, guess what? I don't give a fuck. Sounds good. Rare says, I hate you. Alright. Former 2 says P for me. No. Kelly says hi. Hello, Kelly. Philip says, emoji. Okay. Fox says hello, Don. Hello, Fox. Lurk says, I like the reading voice. Thank you. Kerr says, I give up. Just Don will do. Thank you. That's what I like. Lucian says, take it or double it for the next person. It's at 2. I'd take it. Mr. Chop says, how do I fly? With a helicopter. Bonnie says hi. Hello, Bonnie. Little says, at least I'm annoying you by people now asking you the will you adopt me questions. Yeah, you got me there. Shad says, is my profile picture fire? No, it's not. Backpack says, Don Juan the Legend Benitez. Yeah, that's cute, dude. One Booth says, you ever get boners when you do your talk shows? No comment. Arlie says, my cute. I feel uncomfortable answering that. Yusro says, I condemn you, mate, but I 100% agree with math is yeah, it's pretty boring. I was talking about math like an hour ago. Are you really that behind in the stream? That's funny. Kit Kat says, Donito, you're so cute, thank you. Mason says, you like my profile picture? No. That Football says, would you consider adopting me as a son? Dude, you've asked that like 10 times, stop saying that. Arlie says, I'm over the age of 18, just so you know. Still, even being an adult, it still feels weird. I don't want to judge your looks. Gus says waffles or pancakes. Waffles. BR says donut. Okay. Unfunny says, have you ever traveled abroad? No, I haven't. 1K says meow for me now. Joey says, you're the best streamer, by the way. Thank you. Manny says, Jesus loves you. Thanks. By the way, if you have me as a friend on Discord, take a screenshot of my stream and send it to me, because I want to see how my stream looks like for viewers. The Goat says, rate my profile picture out of 10. 0.5. Yasmin says, what your favorite soccer team? The Spain team. 1K says, are you Christian? No. J Moop says, I'm about to get nuck. I don't know what that means. King says, what's your favorite chat you have got from someone? I don't know, man. I'm sorry. John Cena says, add me on MySpace. No. Yor says, what's up, butt wipe? Hello, Yor. Crazy says, have you ever fallen into the fractals you put behind you? No. It's a TV. It's not 3D. Someone says, hi. Am new here. Hello, person. One Booth says, I do. Thanks for helping me finish. You're welcome. Liv says, what would you rather play, creative mode or survival mode? Creative. Half says, rate my profile picture. Is it cute? It is cute. Janet says, hi. Hello, Janet. The Casual says, how do you feel about smoking/vaping? I think it's something for losers. It's Gavin says, respond the next 3 comments with 1 word. No. The Goat says, why is your 0.5? It looks cringy and, I don't know, just, yeah, cringy. Fire says, I've been here for like 20 minutes, commenting a lot. You don't read normal people's comments. Yeah, I do. You're an idiot. Yor says, are you tripping on acid? I am not. Jazz says, why would you rather choose creative? Because I like the artistic side of Minecraft as opposed to the gameplay. Lucian says, take it or double it. I'm always taking it, dude. Anna says, do you like BO3? Yeah, but BO2 is better. Little says, Dad, I think we're out of a goldfish. I hope you didn't eat it. Icon says, rate my profile picture. No. Brawler says, what do you think of the Backrooms movie? Haven't seen it. Yasmin says, yo, what's your favorite Roblox game? Natural Disasters. Dump says, rate my profile picture. AI Slop. Backpack says, creative mode in life would be useful. Survival mode sucks. In real life, yeah. The says, hi. Hello, the. Best says, hola, hola. Yor says, do a triple backflip, please. I'm not doing that. The Stranger says, do you have a Baraka bussy? No comment. The Dog says, rip my profile picture. It looks like a old man being childish. That's interesting. Henry says, yo, you remember me? No, I don't. Sha says, why 0? Because I don't like it, dude. I don't know why. Schizo says, have you ever watched the new Odyssey movie? No. The Football says, I already read that. Spunky says, remove message from screen. Sit still for 2 seconds so I can get a good pic. No. The Void says, your eyes are looking bad. Okay. Dawn says, Dawn never fails to fill us up with the life juice of joy. Okay. That makes me uncomfortable, but I'll be right back. I'm gonna go do something. I'll be back in about 2 minutes. Sunshine says hi. Hello, Sunshine. It's me, says L vape break. I wasn't vaping. Seven says vape break. No, no. Little says piss break. Yeah, maybe. Yusra says I'm getting hypnotized by the screen. Well, now I'm blocking it. Ermine says, would you consider yourself handsome? Somewhat. Kerr says chicken or beef. Chicken. Waffle says, so this is all for experimental purposes? No, the main reason is money and entertainment, but technically it is a experiment on a technical level. Jesus says, Jesus loves you, thank you. Little says, I did eat Jerry and Fred flopped on the floor. What? FC says, hey Don, should I try FN again? I don't know what FN is. Brawler says, can you rate my profile picture? It's too close up. Lexi says, do you have a dream in life? To make a Minecraft server. Willow says, have you ever watched AppCam2R? That doesn't ring a bell. FC says Fortnite. No. AJ says, apparently I've offended you. You will not see me anymore. Good luck in your future. Channel blocked. No way, you can't be serious. Eli says, do you like my profile picture? No I don't. Jack says, favorite Minecraft mob? Ola. Hello, Jack. Fairs says hi. Hello, Fairs. Spunky says, check Discord. Okay, fine, since you did it and all. Okay, yeah, I see what you sent me, that's cute, okay. Alright. It's me as a cowboy, AI. Drawn says hello. Hello, Drons. Carson says, my mom died from a car crash. Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright, yeah, thank you, Spunky, for the screenshots of the stream. T1 says, are you gay now? Serial says, oh, okay. Corbin says, remember me? I do not. Aisha says, hi, hello. Porma2 says, catboy or cowboy? Cowboy, that's what Spunky sent. Yesra says, I want to see the cowboy, Don. You do? Okay. Fine, I'll bring it up on the screen, No, I don't want to. Spunky, though, he can make it his profile picture if he wants. Moonlight says, do you like my profile picture? It's really pretty. No, I don't. Anu says, here's some water. Thank you. Thumpy says, show us the tip now. No. Ollie says, day 8 of asking Dawn to be my girlfriend. It's never gonna happen. Maria says, okay. I Love says, are we doing a raid? Yes. Speedy says, do you remember me? No. By the way, I'm gonna lie for like 2 minutes. I'm gonna play a character for like a few minutes. Thank you again to User for the flow state. Dino says, do you play Fortnite? I do. Derpy says, hello, want a cleaning service for $15 daily? Yes. The Gaming says, you like Nirvana? No, not at all. Sam says, have you watched Attack on Titan? Yes, I love that. It's one of the best pieces of media ever. Idea says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's really cool. I love Funny says, have you ever traveled abroad? Yeah, I've been to Paraguay. Scrouge says, Jesus loves you, thank you. Moonlight says, why? I thought it was so cool, low-key. It's pretty boring and bland. Yor says, I left because you were pooping. Okay. Ron says, do you remember me? No. Actually, Ronvin, yeah, I do remember you. Plaza says, are you smart fella or fartsmella? I don't know, dude. Fulton says, okay, my guy. I need you to end the stream, go touch some grass, and have a great life. Enjoy the rest of your day. I want you to never come to the stream again. Winnie says, is school hard? It used to be, yeah. Charles says, do you remember me? I do not. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Little says, the goldfish. I did eat Jerry and Fred. Dude, nobody knows what you're saying. Gumbo says, can you make a silly face? No. Fulton says, what? You're arrogant, and you know what? You're acting like you know what's better for me than I know myself, so just, you're annoying. I'm not, says, rate my profile picture. Too close up. Turkey says, do you like Boythrob? Yeah, I love Boythrob. Arrow says, I hit 3,000 subs today. Oh, that's so cool. I Love says, is my profile picture tough? No, it's not. Nazia says, by the way, I'm gonna stop lying. Screw that. I'm not gonna lie anymore. Thank you, the Eater, for the preschool stars, and I do not like your profile picture. JK says, how much does it cost to have your own Minecraft server? Well, the scale I want it to be on, like the kind of server I want, it would have to cost like $40 a month. That Football says, respond to my message, little chump. Here's a response. Ronvin says, do you remember me telling you breadsticks? No. Thank you, the Eater, for the preschool stars. Gorilla says, rate my profile picture. That is pretty cool, dude. Aircraft person. Really says, crying emoji, okay. Thank you, the Eater, for the preschool stars, the 20-something of them. That one guy super chats, don't you hate when a finger goes through the paper when you're wiping? No comment. Thank you, Amelia King Julian, for the disco ball abomination. That's a cute thing right there. Zayed says, what kind of PC you have? I have a Windows 10. Matt says, rate my profile picture. 1. Y4 says, you gonna hit the gym or no? No. Thank you, Cater, for the disco ball abomination. Win says, drink water. Not right now. Remind me in 5 minutes. Thumpy says, Don, get ready for the back shots. You're not doing anything. Mimic says, rate my profile picture. -1. Win says, drink water, please. Okay, fine. 1 second, please, as I drink some water. Duck says, father time, drink water. Yeah, I just did that. LeBlanc says, do you like LeBron? I do not like LeBron. I don't care about basketball. TW says, TCC is goated. I don't know what that is, dude. I love says, I didn't even say that, bro. Oh, I'm sorry if I misspoke. Randy says, Don, I hope we've perverted you real. Goodbye now. No, you haven't. Really says, I like the music in the background. Thank you. Carter says, talk about your job. No, I don't do that. Not says, can I get a shout out? No. Leave the stream. Never come back. Anu says, favorite anime? Spirited Away. Nathan says, do you remember me? No. Fox says, I'ma go cleanse my soul, Don. Wish me luck. Good luck, fuck. Jessica says, unemployed. Alright. Fortnite says, hi, I love your content, thank you. Thumpy says, no, the train station farted on me. Okay. JK says, it sounds like your water bottle was rolling it down a few steps. Maybe. Yeah, I meant to throw it farther, but I threw it poorly. Yesra says, ICL, I'ma be back. Okay, see ya. AN says, what's your favorite Western movie? The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. I've seen the other ones, but that one's still at top. Olive says, why is sexual harassment always featured in the stream? I don't know. Nick says, ban me now. Aunt says, how many donuts can you stack on it? No comment. Moonlight says, what's the worst thing someone's said to you on here? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Vin says, do you feel objectified? No. I don't feel objectified by text on a screen. Sunshine says, pick a number 100 to 130. 121. Mr. Grief says, Don is cool. Thank you. Amir says, bananas, plumes, balls on me. Nobody knows what you're saying, dude. Rand says, what's your favorite car? Cheap cars on Craigslist. Mitcha says, why do you only read the sussy chats? No, I don't. A good portion of the chats are sussy, so that's why. Alicia says, hi, hello, Alicia. Doctor says, what's your strength for estrogen? Probably too high, to be honest. Mr. King says, can I crack? No, you can't. Farming says, do you like Minecraft? Yeah, I do. Backyard says, favorite femboy? I couldn't name a femboy. Mr. King says, may I crack? No. Roblox says, hi, hello, Roblox. Mother's Womb super chats. I stole my mom's credit card to give you $5. Mother's Womb? Huh. I don't think so, though. Usually, children have, like... I imagine a child, if they're on YouTube, they probably have, like, a Roblox profile picture, and their name something stupid. Your profile is artfully done, so... I think you're an adult. Yours says, lol, I've never heard you tell someone not to come back. Yeah, I don't know why, but I decided to do that. Ibrahim says, why do you go live and read chat for money? Bess says, genitals, testicles, okay. JK says $40 a month. That's not a lot. I want to sponsor your Minecraft server, but I don't want to pay Google a cut through super chats. Thank you, but the main reason I haven't done it yet is not because of money, but because of, like, ideas for the server. I want to customize the server to be interesting, and I haven't thought of the correct ideas yet. Ultra says, my parents died yesterday. I'm very sorry. Please just stop super chats. Where do you source your background animation from? It's in the description. And I'll also just tell you, I got it from the... Well, it comes from a guy that has a YouTube channel called Maths Town. Like math as in 1 + 1. Maths with an S. Maths Town. as like city. Ronvin says drink more water, not right now. Ray says rate my profile picture. 2. Your boy says I love money for real. Okay. But again, the exact video is in the description. Noah says, do you remember me? Yeah. I hate that question. Owen super chats $1 American. Thank you, Owen. Rand says Honda Accord or Honda Civic. Civic. Luke says, do you like Fortnite? A tiny bit. I am Batman says, how much can you bench? I don't know. I never go to the gym. Levy says, rate my profile picture. I like it. Simple, cute cat. Little says, no comment, Dad. Okay, whatever. Rand says, Civic or Toyota Camry? Civic. I don't like how big Camrys are. Traveler says, hi, Reginald. That's not my name. Bates says, do you need water? No. Brawler says, I took a poopy and my grandma said that she's wiping it on my... Oh, that's gross. Mitcha says, bro, stop saying Mitcha. It's Michael. I thought we were friends. Oh, I don't remember that. Star says, are you gay? No. Monkey says, go to the gym. No, I don't like the gym. Kendall says, do you remember me? Yes, I do. Yor says, bye, Senor Don Benitez. Bye, you're all. Random says, did the B1 Lancer participate in Operation Trident Lightning? I don't know, dude. I'm not the person to ask. JK says, can you pattern characters or places in Minecraft after your favorite live stream viewers like JK? Yeah, I could. Yeah. King says, it's so funny that you keep it real. Thank you. Little says, bro's back is abstracting. Yeah, I am. The bit says, you remember me? No, I don't. No. Sucho says, are you gay? I am not gay. No. No. That one says, are you a Cessna 150? No, obviously not. Human says, you could make it a faction server with RL Craft. No. I don't like hardcore, like, gamer, 1,000 hours required, tough game Minecraft. I want simple creative. Spunky says, are you dying? Yeah. By the way, that's AI me. Emilio says something in Spanish. I don't know Spanish, dude. Bess says, tip reveal at 500 likes. I don't care about likes. I care about money. You're Funny says, favorite historical event? The American Civil War. Zank says, you look sad. Are you okay? Yes, I am. Doobie says, are you angry? No. Lick says, lots of love from France. Thank you, Lick. And I'm Martins for the preschool star. CJ says, are you okay? You look stressed. I am okay. 1 second, please, as I put my headset on and adjust my hair. 1 second, please. Okay, there we go. Liam says, do you think Arby's is good? No. KW says, John Deere for 400D. Okay. Mitcha says, excuse me, I don't remember. That is wild. I mean, I think it's fair, actually. Thank you, Smeef Boy, for the Uncle Alert gift. Ronvin says, drink more water now. No. Remind me in 10 minutes. The archive says, poop on your pee or pee on your poop. Dude, my brain can't handle that. Du Bois says, how do I come out of the closet to my mom? I don't know, I'm the wrong person to ask. Smeef says, moon landing, never W. What? Alina says, the next comment is wild. Okay. Jimmy says, are you getting money from this? Yeah. Brawler says, hey, I poopy on my 6'7". Mandu, I'm Michiel. Okay. Hat says, is someone being hypnotized in the back? No. Noah says, what games do you play? I play manipulate people in real life. Stell says hi. Hello, Stell. Colby says, you are Diddy. Okay. Lud says, do you remember me from yesterday? I do not remember you. Winter says, do you like your fans? No, I do not. No. Rands says, Civic or Chevu Malibu? Civic. Slew says, my name is Ander Dingus. Okay. Randy says, treat me dirty, nasty like you want me to squeal like a pig. I'm not into that. Yeah, I'm not into that. Micah says, Jesus loves you. Thank you. C says, a man walks into bar and says what? Maddox says, bro, what? Goku says, rate my profile picture. 1. Buff says, you look Polchitradinius. What's that? Daybem says, I love USA. Yeah, me too. Aaron says, hi. Hello, Aaron. Moat says, why do you do this so much? Moolah. JX says, are you ever gonna play Fortnite with me? Are you an adult and do you live in the US? Willa says, hello. Hello, Willa. Moat says, why do you... already read that. Sam says, answer me. I'm answering you right now. Adira says, rate my profile picture. 1. Star says, are you a femboy? I am not a femboy. Win says, remember me? No. Gogu says, hello. Hello, Gogu. One Boof says, no hate, but you good? You look like you're trying not to cry. You just tired or something? I'm fine. Megalon says, Yepper Fondukels. Okay. Yusra says, do you want to see my pet kitten? Yes. Ronvin says, do it for me. Do what? Goku says, bruh, you're so annoying. Alright. Hez says, hi. Hello, Hez. Eleni says, remember me? I'm Poyo-Yo. No, I don't. The Tough says, hi. Hello, The Tough. Yagi says, do you like nature? I mean, do I love going on hikes? Not really. Jonix says, please get American cheese. Not right now. Ghost says, hi. Hello, Ghost. Elenia says, rate my logo. 1. Ronvin says, drink water. Okay, give me a second as I drink some water. Thank you for your patience. Alina says, do you think Half-Life is a good game? Yeah. Pebble says, I love Miami. Alright. James says, Diddy. Okay, alright. Never heard that name before. Dean says, chug the water. No. Parker Sab super chats, can you adopt me? No. I'm not financially stable enough for that, and there's multiple other reasons too. That's a stupid question. Thank you, Parker Sab. Sus says, do you like Fallout New Vegas? No. Cod says, remember me? No. Teal says, have you ever rated a profile picture 10? Never. I'm not the kind of person to do that, because that's like saying it's perfect. I'll do a 9 maybe, but not 10. Andrad super chats, Don. What's good? What do you say about me starting a stream being disabled? Serious question. I mean, disabled how? I mean, yeah, like, no matter actually how you're disabled, I think that's cool. But, yeah, I wish you luck in that. I think anyone can do it, really, to be honest. Star says, how's your day? It's going good. Megumi says, hello. Hello, Megumi. Dad says, do you know what RDR stands? Red Dead Redemption. 60 says, you should get an e-bike. No, I shouldn't. Certified says, what is your favorite color? Gray. Unstable says, can we raid? We'll do that. Zank says, do you like my profile picture? No, it's too close up. Thumpy says, Don, I will violently dawdle and tickle your tip. You're not doing that, you're just making things up. E-Wave says, isn't this tiring? Yeah. I don't know says, can we kiss? No. Ruth says, you a gamer? No. Doobie says, if you don't respond to me, you'll do what? I guess it doesn't matter because I responded. Sid says, what's that smell? I don't know, I don't live next to you. TK says, are you proud of yourself in life? Yes and no. Inio says, can I add you in Fortnite? I'm 18 plus PST time. Okay. I'll drop my Fortnite username. Epic username. I'm pretty sure this is my Epic username. I'm pretty sure. Hez says, your favorite sport? This. Salman says, rate my profile picture. I'd give it a 1. Yeah, this is my favorite sport. I wanted it to make it look like I'm spinning the ball. But it just looks stupid. Sid says, what's that smell? Yeah, I don't know, dude. DMH says, can we touch tips? No. Brawler says, comfortable. Nachi, Trista, Chico, Oddbod. I don't know what you're saying, dude. Banana says, rate my profile picture. I like chicken nuggets. Indiana says, F22 Raptor or SU57 Felon. The Raptor. Pancake says, I just hit 63 subs. Oh, that's cool. Ronvin says, thank you, La King. You're welcome. Just a Boy says, remember me? No, I don't. Ammo says, cat. Okay. Little says, Chan doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything? It just makes the names cuter. It doesn't mean anything. That can't be. Your favorite says, how are you, mate? I'm good. Nicole says, rate my profile picture. Is that you in a car and, like, you're looking at the person in the backseat? I don't know, but it looks pretty cool. Gogu says, rate my profile picture. Terrible. D. Leon says, hi, hello. Eric says, how are unowned are you? What does that mean? Zank says, you like my profile picture? I do not. Just because you have a profile picture of me does not make it good. Rand says, my Honda is 1 in 3200. Okay. Peyton says, are you mentally okay? I am mentally okay. I Run says, hi, hello, I Run. The VR says, hi, how are you? I'm pretty good. Four Wheel says, hi, hello, Four Wheel. Michael super chats, I see through your lies, Donovan. Tell me, what was the name of your favorite classmate back in your high school days? No comment. AP says, I like your hair, thank you. Nick says, yo, hi. Hello, Nick. Hezi says, you're the best, thank you. Inio says, alright, my skin will be Miku, I'll add you later. Okay. Miku. Ugh, alright, that's fine. PS says, simp, alright. Everett super chats, what's your favorite cartoon? I don't like cartoons. Not Digital Circus, that sucks. Not Steven Universe, I hate that just as much. I don't know. Avatar, The Last Airbender. Hi says you cringe, okay. Benny says, hi, hello Benny. Shadow says, you like my profile picture? I do not. Thank you again, Everett and Michael, for the super chats. Yusra says, kitten on the profile picture, XX. Yeah, that's cute. Mr. Coolman says, I'm more handsomer than you. Alright. Big says, say my name. Big Slimy Rooster. Raven says, you are a real simp. What? Astral says, are you happy Spain won? I'm indifferent. Arthur says, Avatar, the last chicken tender. Okay. Ronnie says, I love your personality, bro. Thank you. Nicholas says, hi. Hello, Nicholas. Raven says, Daddy or Jeffrey? I don't know how to answer that. Axel says, are you LARPing? No. Braden says, rate my profile picture 1 to 10, please. 3. Rizzy says, 67. Okay. Syria says, would you like a gift? I would. Spy says, see you, remember me? What? Can you type properly, please? You're so annoying. Feet says, can I see your feet? No. Harrison says, you like Drake? Not at all. Turkey says, what is your favorite music decade? I don't know. I'm not a music nerd like that. Mick says, yo, hello Mick. Thank you, Gamify, for the 6-7 gift and for the press F. Bippin says, I'm clapping my cheeks. Okay. Jab says, have you played paintball? I have not played paintball. Cadence says, hi, I'm new. Hello, Cadence. 1 second, please. Elijah says, hi. Hello, Elijah. Elite says, let's make a mini Don. No. Not interested in sex. Thank you, Sirius, for the preschool stars, and Jimbo for the preschool star. John says, can we have a Gunaf? No. We Love says, what's your favorite hobby outside of streaming? Video editing. Thank you, Ruben, for the marshmallow hand, and Ben for the flow state. Plain says, what is your favorite flavor? This can be for popsicles, any type of food. I like orange flavored stuff. Nismo says, what is one thing that you haven't told anyone that you're hurt deeply? I wouldn't tell the internet that. Everett super chats, if you could go anywhere, where would you go? I would go to I have an interest in New York City and San Francisco. I like the culture there as opposed to like the bland cities that are all over the United States. I want a city with I like cities with character. Rival says, when you goon, does it hurt? No comment. Thank you, Nayoa the Goat, for the disco ball abomination. The archive says, do you like dancing in the rain while flipping your hair? No. Olive says, what is your favorite most recent game? I don't know. Your favorite says, you look sleep deprived. Have you slept? Yes, I have. Dad says, are you a therapist? I am not a therapist. Thank you, your favorite freak, for the turtle drinking water and the flow state. Resin for the flow state. Trizzy says, hi, how are you? I'm good. I'll drink water in honor of this turtle. Thank you, your favorite freak. Your favorite freak says, yes. I drank the water. Bloop says, what is your favorite food? The cheeseburger. PS says, what football team do you support? None. I hate them all. Roblox says, lots of love from Ireland. Well, hate from USA. Revel says, remember me? No. Thank you, Am, for the clutch, and Labyrinth for the 100. Lil Biggie says, tell me a joke. No. I don't care to do that. Lil Cringe says, I'm new. Hello, Lil Cringe. Giyu says, hey bro, do you remember me? I was still here when you were a way smallish YouTuber. No, I don't. Well, Giyu, that sounds familiar. Olive says, I like your background, thank you. King says, favorite football team. Dude, I just answered that. Larry says, I'm in the class, help me, it's science. Isn't it summer? Sequence says, you're so toxic, why? I don't know. Rio says, yo, what's up, Don? Hello, Rio. MJ says, hi. Hello, MJ. Angel says, ... Alright. I love says, you're rude as hell. Alright. Breaker says, DC and hijab is a teaching. What? AM says, who did you want to win the World Cup? Dude, I don't care about the World Cup. So boring. Elliot says, I'm gay. That's cool that you're gay, Elliot. Jonathan says, I'm so sad. I'm sorry, Jonathan. Caden says, do you love women? Yes. Thank you, your favorite freak, for the marshmallow hand. Thank you. Certified says, what is your favorite dessert / sweet, Don? Nerds Gummy Clusters. DMH says, can we please recreate 2 girls, 1 cup together? No. Everett super chats, what's scarier, the ocean or space? Well, I mean, it depends, like, how you think about it. I'd rather be stranded in the ocean than space, because you'll definitely die if you're stranded in space. Lud says, John 3:16, yeah, I've read that before. Clay says, goon, no. Mia says, I'm Diddy Stinky Toe, okay. Clark says, stay in character. It's not hard. I'm not even playing a character, to be honest. C. Brandon says, goober, okay. Jaden says, are you gay? No. Thank you, Everett, for the super chat. And thank you again to A-Team for the marshmallow hand. Thank you, A-Team. I'm autistic, says I'm gay. You're gay and autistic, okay. Sean says, are you gay? No. Beth says, you actually look cute. Actually? That actually part makes it sort of an insult. Star says, are you friendly? I can be. Thank you, Andrad, for the 100. Kerr says, you look like a disappointed father. Reading all the weird comments. Yeah, I can see that. Extra says, are you gay? No. Thank you again to Resin for the flow state. Thank you, Resin. Just says, quack. Okay. Porma2 says, you're actually not ugly. Yeah. That's also an insult. Burner says, you're so chill, I took notes, and I got a girlfriend now. Oh, that's cool. Boya says, did you feel the political time shift on? No, I didn't. Lucas says, Daddy's gonna touch you. No, he's not. Thank you, Andrad, for the 37 40 100s. Thank you. Amjad says, he kinda rude. Okay. Mr. Tornado says, do you consider yourself a Jibba? I don't know what that means. Thank you, Don't Be Weird, for the GOAT trophy. Don't be weird. That's quite an interesting username in the context of my chat. Digital says, Blood has an abstracting T to C background. I hate you. Gaby says, Donnie boy, why do you never like my statistics? Because it's hard to explain. RV says, remember me? I do not. Everett Price super chats, would you rather time travel in the past or future? I would be opportunistic and go to the future and try to get knowledge that would make me rich. I'd be opportunistic like that. Joe says, do you like fishing? No, I don't. BD says hi. Hello, BD. Duck says, can you be my friend? No. JK says, check out the rack at Amethyst Doll. Okay. Would your wife like that? Ozzy says, I'm under your desk. Okay. Don Ovan Benitez super chats, I've come to declare that I am the real Don Benitez. I emailed this poser, but he never responded. I'm gonna touch you, fake Don. I'm the real one. I remember your email, by the way. That was cute. John says, you look like a emo. Okay. Thank you, John Casterline Screen Punk, for the turtle drinking water. I don't like the way that he's looking at me. Kind of makes me uncomfortable. 1 second, please, as I drink some water. Ethan says, you love yourself? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. JK says, you like men? I don't. Dad says, can you say dadgum son? My user, there you go. There you go, you attention lover. Don says, send 100,000 now. Little says, according to Google, Chan is an informal, affectionate suffix that makes the name before it cuter. Oh, okay. Thank you for the information. Don't Be Weird says, would you rather use a used condom or eat shit? Probably the former. Official says, how has your day been lately? It's been good. Hi, says up again. Hello, hi. Thank you again to John Casterline, Screen Punk, and Don't Be Weird. Dr. Leave says, will the rain hurt the rhubarb? I don't know what that means. JK says, she would not like that, but at least she would appreciate that I am not gay. Yeah, I guess. Defin says, why do you always look like you're about to cry, Donnie? That's just my disposition. Natural disposition. Always has been. Don says, Free Diddy, he was a good guy, he did nothing wrong. Okay. Hunter says, have you played Resident Evil? I haven't. Raven says, do a water flip? No. Thank you again to, well, thank you Andrad for the thumbs up, and Don't Be Weird for the GOAT trophy. Eli says, rate my profile picture. Terrible. A person says, would you rather gain muscles or racial slurs? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Frosty says, do you remember me? No. B-Man says, remember me from start of stream? No. Maddox says, would you touch your past self or future self? I would not sexually assault anyone, even if it was myself. Hello says, remember me? No. I don't. Star says, hello. Hello, Star. JJ says, you believe in Jesus, brother? No, I don't. No. March says, what's 9 plus 10? 21. Gaby says, you just don't remember my stats, do you? I'm pretty sure you gave, like, 13%-esque stats, and I don't like that. Delete says, are those fractals behind you? Yeah, they are. Those are fractals. Yeah. Yeah. Ichiro says, what is your religion? I don't have a religion. The executive says, remember me? Die rise on top. Also charge those AirPods. I don't remember you. But yeah, they're charged, and die rise on top. Jonathan says, 1 second, please. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Jonathan says, would you rather be broke but happy or rich but sad? I'd be poor and sad. Rankin says, I have 20,000 subscribers. Oh, that's cool. Definitely says, you look cool. Thank you. Gaby says, but do you remember me, Don? No, I don't. Well, I remember your profile picture, but not you so much. Anastasia says, hi. Hello, Anastasia. Raven says, nice voice actor, by the way. I don't know what you're saying, dude. Megalon says, are you okay? Yeah. RTX says, what is better, NFS Nitro or Hot Pursuit? Hot Pursuit. Thank you, Resin, for the flow state. Mega says, are you okay? Yes. Yesra says, 1 second, please. 1 second, please. What salon did you get your hair in? I don't go to salons. Kerr says, what happened to the water bottle that used to be in the background? It's not in the background? Oh shoot. That's a mistake. Thank you for informing me. I don't know how it got that way. Thank you, Resin, for the American Eagle. I appreciate all of your gifts. Your 2 flow states, the Eagle, thank you. Zeno says, hope you have a good night. You too, Zeno. Everett Super Chats, do you like anime? I do not like anime. Duck says, please respond. You're so annoying. Leave the stream. I hate you. Elf says, are you gay? I'm not gay. 67 says, I watch all of your streams and I'm a big fan. Okay. Raven says, 1 second, please. Are you emo? No. Donovan Benitez Super Chats. I thought my emo was cute too, by the way. Yeah, it was a cute, funny exchange we had. I'm not gonna respond though because I think it's already. It'd be corny if we continued on. Spade says, why am I so peak? I don't know, dude. 80 says, I live in Tacoma, Washington. How about you? That's private, dude. That's private. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Dart says, you like penis? No, I don't. No. Victoria says, I like your setup and monitors. Thank you. Eric says, hi. Hello, Eric. Thank you again to Resin for the Eagle gift. Dadgum says, I live in Texas. Do you like Texans? Not really. The Hour says, what do you say, Valorant is overrated? No. JK says, he'd checking out the rack. I'm not checking out any racks. Brody says, what is this stream about? You're looking at it. Thank you, The Real, for the Uncle Alert. JJ says, I'm back. Hi. Hello, JJ. Official says, rate my profile picture. I don't know what that is. Anna says, have you gone to PCB? I don't know what that means. Thank you, Real Pizza, again, for the Uncle Alert thing. Donovan Super Chats. Yeah, it'd probably be corny. I'm corny for you, though. Okay. Thank you, I guess, that that you're corny for me. Christian says, hello, I'm back. Hello, Christian. Gogu says, please do a flip. No, I don't even know how to do that. Gaby says, it was satire Donomatic. What? Drago says, Messi or Ronaldo. That guy. Delete says, Chase Super Chats. What does Chase Super Chats mean? We Love says, you like Minecraft? I do. Frosty says, can you let me get out from under the desk? You're not there. Brody says, holy unk. Speaking of that, thank you again, Real Pizza, for the gift. Fortnite says, lick my sack. No, not doing that. Pomni says, subscribe now. No, you don't have to. Leave the stream if you want to. Burner says, do you ever smile or laugh? Yeah. TNT says, red or blue. I'm gonna go with blue. Joseph says water or jizz. Ah. Water. Kerr says see ya, Don. I'll be back in 1 hour. Okay, see ya, Kerr. Jose says rare my profile picture. I give it a 2. Mystical says, what's your favorite color? Gray. Blue says hi. Hello, Blue. Joseph says, had to think on it, huh? I don't know what you're referring to. Geo says, do you regret doing this? No. Asher says, rate my profile picture. I don't like that style. Looks childish and stupid. Volt says, are you named LeBron? No. Nope. Mike V says, did you know one of your followers is creating short videos from your streams? Yes, I've seen multiple people do that. The Soccer says, how do you feel about Spain winning the World Cup? I'm a little happy, but I don't really care, to be honest. Frosty says, Don makes me tickle his jickle. I don't force you. Crafty says, do you love my profile picture? No, I dislike it. Elite says, rate my profile picture. 0.5. Davey says, ah, okay. Digital says, slime my dick. I don't know what that means. Brody says, why is there so much weed people? Because I let it happen. Eric says, do you unlike Mexico? Yes. I don't like the cartel violence there. Zachary says, how are you? I'm fine. William says, if you can choose, you will choose goon to Messi or Ronaldo. Your answer will determine my goon for tonight. Ronaldo. Z says, how well do you think your live does with gay people? I don't know. I never thought about that. Well, I'm not homophobic myself, so that probably opens it up to more gay people. Your kiddo says, remember me? No, I don't. Quinn says, hamburger. Alright. The Real says, do you like the Phillies? I don't. No, I don't. Elizabeth says, are you going to make a gaming channel now? Raven says, raw food or overcooked food. What? Hi says, are you an ally? Yes, I support LGBTQ. I love says, gray is a shade ding dong. Technically, but it's also a color if, in a way, like, I don't know why you're being so technical. You're being just annoying. You're not being... JK says, I just told her we are going to raid her. Then she's looking forward to... She's gonna get disappointed then. Zachary says, do you have a condom? No comment. Jello says, rate my profile picture. 5. Duck says, I'm gonna touch you. No, you're not. Puggle says, 1 second, please. Yeah, that's my voice line. The executive says, I'm the guy. You butchered my name a lot. Okay. Boba says, what rhymes with orange? I don't think anything does. Gogu says, there's 386 gay people. Okay. Gavin says, do you fuck her raw? No comment. Hi says, white, black, and gray are all shades, tints, and colors. Whatever, I don't care. You're just a nerd. Bond says, hi. Hello, Bond. Amp says, do you support MAGA? No comment. Toka says, hi. Do you know my mom? Probably not. Volt says, do you like dudes? No. Mystical says, did you watch World Cup? No, I didn't. Lucy says, water. I'm not thirsty. Zilla says, are you gay? No. I'm straight. I like women. Dart says, respond please. Who do you think you are saying respond please? You're so annoying. You're such an annoying little attention-hungry waste of space. Joe G super chats. One would think it's a full moon, but it's not. I admire the passive humor in your responses. Oh, thank you. One would think it's a full moon, but it's not. I don't get that, but it's probably funny. Pepsi says, why do you look so mad? I don't know. 67 says, these are very, very, very weird comments. Okay. Zachary says, put sperm in my dick. I'm not doing that. Pepsi says, why do you look so mad? I don't know, dude. Yim says, have you had a inner core, dude. Can you do the decency of spelling correctly? Spawn says rate my profile picture. 1. Dr. Leave says door hinge rhymes with orange. You're correct. That's cool. Astro says I'm gay. Okay. Burner says do you curse? Not personally. The King says do you remember the rate from yesterday? No. Little says NPC attention seekers. Yeah. Jello says I got 5. Make it gray. What? AD says I live at something something. No comment. Rasta says do you like that Spain won the World Cup? I don't really care. Ray says, why can't people spell anymore? It's really not rocket science. Yeah. Yeah. William says, thanks bro, I love your streams. Thank you for supporting. Frosty says, every time Don smiles, that's me putting in the work. Okay. Michael super chats, rate the profile picture on a scale of uncrackable to crackable. 1 being uncrackable, 5 being incredibly crackable. Personally, I mean, you say 1. I'm not gonna give it a 1. I'm gonna give it a 0. I'm not. You should have included a 0 because that person's a dude and I'm a dude and I'm not gay. So, Hat says, do most people who comment annoy you? Yeah. Joe G says full moon. Chat's weird tonight. Okay. FL says you're chopped cheese, bro. Okay. Zoe says hi, hello Zoe. 10 says what's the weirdest thing you've stuck in your butt? Nothing. I don't know. Air. I don't know. White Elf says he makes me shit on his feet. Okay. JK says attention seeking waste of space. Haha, that bro burned. Okay. Ethan says God loves you. Okay. Thank you, Ethan. Philip says hi. Hello, Philip. I already read that. Who says Hitler or Netanyahu? No comment. Sawyer says, but you're not him. Why are you trying to act nonchalant? I'm not trying to intentionally act anyway. Maria says, do you know Roblox? No. Rexy says, rate my profile picture. 1. Thank you again, Michael and Joe G for the super chats. But yeah, that's completely uncrackable. Luke says, remember me? I do not remember you. Little says, why can't people spell? I don't understand. 10 says, you should watch Ludwig's Streamer University classes. No, I shouldn't. I'm a different species of streamer. I'm not the same as him. King says hi. Hello, King. Garrett says nip size, please. That's private. Max says, have you played Battle Cats? No, I haven't. Random says, can you make me famous? No. Leave the stream, I hate you. Dev says, let's watch something, bro. No. The Goose says, Apple Pen. Oh, it's been a long time since I heard that. Joseph says, streamer you is the real gay. I don't understand. He says, what's your favorite colors other than rainbow? I like gray and red. Him says, go to 124 Conch Street on Google Earth. No. Mason says, are you happy with your life? I mean, yes and no, just like most people. N says, rate your own profile picture. 6. Sean says, suck me. No. Cisco says, rate my profile picture. Terrible. Looks like some just hype beast, stupid 80 IQ profile picture. A baseline says, you like fishing? No. Knight says, hi. Hello, Knight. Ranson says, would you rather have a mouthful of bees or 1 bee in your butt? Mouthful of bees. Alicia says, hi, I'm back. Hello, Alicia. Thank you, Sophia, for the preschool star. And thank you again to Resin for the flow state. Thank you. Danny says, W, bro. Okay. Solar says, racial slur. Alright. Zilla says, what's your OnlyFans? I don't have one. Miguel says hi. Hello, Miguel. JP says, go outside, Emma. Not right now. The cat says, do you like my profile picture? No. Judy says, Holland song. What? HV says, you like cakes with candles? Sure. Rad says, greatest childhood memory? I don't know, I'm sorry. I probably wouldn't share that online because it just feels too sacred to share. Judy says, Creekcraft, Gubby, you know? No, I don't know. Aiden says, have you watched One Piece? No. Sabas says, are you happy with what you do now? I don't know, you mean what you do now? What? Judy says, Creekcraft, I already read that. Yusra says, good night, Don. Peace, bro. See ya, Yusra. Digital says, rate my profile picture. -1. Toog says, what's your favorite game? Think of a better question. Jeremy says, do you look forward to getting older? No. N says, you need to add some of your recent unlisted streams to your playlist. I don't think I do. Sparky says, hey, just came upon your stream. Have a nice day, sir. See ya. Zed says, cheese. Okay. Alright. Rudden says, what's my profile picture from? Deltarune. That's my guess. Life says, Cini. Okay. Red Sauce says, are you gonna do streams other than this? I'm not sure, to be honest. Thank you, Jojo, for the 6-7 abomination. John says, please profile picture. Why is it so complicated? Like, why is there a mushroom and then there's like a background of like, just, you gotta make it simpler. Skeeter says, are you a big fan of God? No. Thank you, Sean Brown, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. Toby says, Don, favorite series? I don't know, all series suck. Jetto says, what's your favorite streamer? There's no good streamers. Anthony says, your brain is fully rotted. Okay. Sawyer says, bro, was definitely bullied in school. Okay. Eric says, hi. Hello, Eric. Misery says, yeah, alright. Yusra says, good night, Don. Bro, yeah, you've already said that. Spade says, me no. Japanese, alright. Void says, how has your day been? It's been good. Nathan says, I'm back. Welcome back, Nathan. Miro says, I like your haircut, thank you. Aldene says, shig shag. What? Jamie says, why is everyone so mean to you? I don't know, but it's fine. Valentine says, you like anime? No, I don't. HC says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's cute. A cute puppy and a cat. That's nice. Pepsi says, what's your PC specs? GTX 1080. Puggle says, the big lie and its consequences have not yet come up for discussion on this subject, but the question remains, how much for... Can you get to the point? Are you talking about the Industrial Revolution? HC says, rate my profile picture. 5. Turtle says, you look like my left nutsack. Alright. AD says, why can't you play Uno with Trump? Because he takes all the green cards. Oh. Huh. TSM says, you love cock? No, I don't. Chiaki says, if you could change anything, what would you change? And I mean anything. About the world, I would remove urinating, defecating, and flatulence from the world. Yuki says, why do you like streaming? For the money. Zachary says, I can see your dick. No, you can't. Arch says, please make a vor video. I don't know what that is. Tesco says, tell me why you killed Timmy Tough Nichols. I don't know that guy. Ian says, hi again. Do you remember me from the start of the stream? No. Nick says, you like airplanes? Not really. Low-key says, do you or have you played Minecraft? Yeah, I have. Russ says, rate my profile picture. Terrible, I hate it. Little says, Dad, can I come out of the basement now? You're not in my basement, dude. Not in my basement. Radiant says, how did you get started to this type of live stream? I noticed that in just about every stream ever, the streamer sometimes reads the chat. So I just figured, what if I did that all the time? Gris says, what's up, how are you? I'm good. Joji super chats, give a man a plane ticket. He flies for a day. Push a man out of a plane. He flies for the rest of his life. Lol, hydrate? Okay, I'll do that. And that's funny. The frog says, you're genuinely brain dead. Not genuinely. Kali says, are you having a good day? Yes. Baseline says written profile picture. Looks like AI slot. Mr. Dynamic says written profile picture. Oh, that looks terrible. Stupid Sigma. Yeah, I hate it. Helping says, do you remember me? No. PM says hi. Hello, PM. Grinch says rate my profile picture. Oh, that's... Oh, he looks comfortable. Doughy is his favorite show. Dude, I don't like shows. Star says you have 3 wishes. What are those wishes? $1 trillion. Brody says, fuck me, daddy, no. I Love says, I'm not being annoying. I'm just informing you. But you can't take that. And you are money hungry and rude. Be a better person, not hard at all. Be a better person? I'll try to do that. N says, do you have any other motions? Yes. Blub says, how old are you? I am above 17. Luke says, remember me? No. Donna says, rage my profile picture. Spell correctly. Kong says, favorite game? Mario Kart Wii was fun. Yam says, day 2 of asking, do you want me or not, Daddy? No, go away. TRC says, hi. Hello, TRC. Tesco says, why did you kill him? I haven't killed anyone. Thank you, Charnese, for the flow state. Thank you. Aiden says, do you think World War III is going to happen in our lifetime? No. 67 says, do you play Fortnite? No. No, says Raid, in 51 minutes. Short says, love your shirt, thank you. Edit says, are you gay? No. I am not gay. 1 second, I'll be right back. I'm going to go do something. Give me 2 minutes. Hello, idiots. Essa says, guys, is Orby Mochi rare? I wouldn't know. Zilla says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how many hot dogs have you gobbled? It's been like a decade since I've had a hot dog. I've probably only had one in my life, actually. Don says, what would you do if you had 2 chairs, one with a dildo on it and one with a cake on it? You need the... I wouldn't sit on a dildo. I wouldn't do that. Joji says, music is too loud, Don. Really? Tell me that again in 10 minutes if it really is. Like, just... There's... It can't be. Nala says, are you okay? Yes, I am. Ty says, poor chair. Okay. Ramon says, hello, idiots. Yeah, that's my quote. Just like S says, YouTube put the stream on my recommended with Don gone and Are You Gay pulled up. That's pretty funny. It gives the impression that, like, I rage quit the stream because, like, someone asked that. Thank you, Gina, for the 2 flow states. Go says, what do you think is the best sport? Video games. 36 says, hi, hello 36. Slurp says, remember that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I knew that. Thank you, I'm not Leo, for the abomination that I want to crush it. I want to torture it. N3 says, I eat beans. Okay. Someone says, guessed what? I'm gay, you are a femboy? No, we're not the same. Burner says, what does raid mean? It means we go surprise a small streamer. Yeah. Just like S says, torture? Yeah. I would, yeah, I would torture this thing. It would no longer be smiling. It would, I would put burning coals in its mouth. Randy says, are you gay? I am not gay. It's Joel says, rate my profile picture. 0.5. Gojo says, HTX, you're so annoying. Thank you, Gohu, for the flow state. Radiant says, any tips you would like to give to people who want to find their own content? Find oh, I lost the message. Just find a method that works, like pretend as if you're about to copy someone, but just switch something up. Like, just do your own spin on something that's already existing, and you might find a good idea from that. Dark says, am the main character. What? Thank you, again, Gohu, for the flow state. Nash says, you like swimming? Yeah. Duck says, I am back. Hello, annoying person. 1 million says, do you remember me? No, I don't. No. Jack says, Bota. Okay. Someone says, chat is femboy. Okay, I guess. Thank you, Gina, for the 6-7. Jamie says, I can play guitar. Oh, that's cool. Spider says, hi. Hello, Spider. Little Dawn says, I like the photo on your desk in the bottom middle part of the screen. Okay, bottom middle part, this thing? Okay. Hunter says, do you remember me? Do you remember? Or do you remember me? No, I don't. You guys are not special. Radiant says, thank you. By the way, your content fits you very well, as if it was made for you. It's almost as if I made this style. N3 says, I stole your kidney. No, you didn't. Dev says, rate my profile picture. 1. Brayden says, favorite CFB team? I don't know what that is. Zilla says, are you the little spoon? No. Zachra, should I have sex? No, well, I don't know. You should answer that yourself. Norbox says, hi. Hello, Norbox. Yam says, Daddy, I missed you so much. What's up? Thank you again to Go Hotek Sens and Long Horse for the flow state. Graveman says, I had the world record for speed running in a very niche game called Dishonored Death of the Outsider. I lost my title. Oh, that's cool. I'm sorry that you lost it, though. JettaCast Super Chats Don. What the hell do you like? You hate everything. I like, the creator. My house is dirty. It's yours says, rate my profile picture. I hate it. Raphael says, hi. Hello, Raphael. Pistachio says, have you ever beat a Rubik's Cube? No. Simba says, have you ever had a girlfriend? No comment. Thank you again to Gina for the disco ball and Gohan for the flow state. Sleep says, do you vapor? Nah. Raphael says hi, hello Raphael. Just like Super Chats, I have been experimenting to create a small 6-inch tall homunculus of Dawn. So far, it's incapable of speech, but can crawl. We'll keep updated, guys. Okay, that's cool. You know, you're just being silly, but there is a reality where this is, like, what you could do is you could make an AI of me. Like, I don't think that's feasible, but maybe you could try to make an AI of me, and that might be interesting. Gojo says, head of the... I don't care. Star says, I'm a sub because you're cool. Thank you. And thank you, Zachariah, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. Known says, hi, hello, Known. Shell says, favorite game of all time. It might be Red Dead Redemption 1. Thank you, Go to Sleep, for the sunshine thing. Just Average says, hi, hello, Just Average. Dank says, Islam or Christianity? Christianity. Saul says, hello, Saul. Spilly says, you play VR? No, I don't. Jamie says, East or West Coast? I can't say. Phoenix says, hi, hello, Phoenix. Max says, you should play Veil on your VR headset. No, I shouldn't. Lawturn says, how can someone make you happy? Money. Speaking of that, thank you again, just like and Go to Sleep for the money. Radiant says, how do you keep the pace with all these comments? Ain't this exhausting? No. All I'm doing is reading. You say keep the pace, like I can speak as slow or as fast as I want to. Sometimes I talk pretty slowly if I feel tired. But yeah, this is just reading. It's not like I'm running a marathon. Nor says favorite color gray. Upgrade says Teslas or gas cars. Teslas. Yam says fuck. Okay. Saul says I have the same name or Saul. What? Vert says, why do you like Red Dead 1? Not because of the story, but because I like the map. Some of the map, particularly the West Elizabeth. Norbik says favorite color, gray. The King says, what's the background video called? Check the description. Nunya says, will you raid me if I go live? Probably not. Mimeo says, do you read all comments? No. Ever says your stream is lagging like crazy. No way. Westry Super Chats, only 41 minutes. Lol. Remember, smile and breathe. Thank you, Westru, the Christian person that spams, well, not spams, but says Romans verse a lot. Thank you. '67 says, on my screen, your stream is so laggy, I can barely hear you talking. No way. Not says, yo, I just went from 10 megabyte internet to 1 gigabyte. Oh, that's awesome. Phoenix says, have you ever ridden a dirt bike or e-bike? No. Actually, an e-bike for like 30 seconds. Barry says, are you proud of yourself? Somewhat. Just like S says, Don, have you ever had a panic attack, brother? No. Speaking of that, though, I did watch a movie that centers on a character that has those, called Blue Jasmine. Win says, do you like men? No. Dr. Leave says, I killed a ladybug, Don. I don't care. Zilla says, have you ever ridden a horse? No. ER says, have you ever heard of Danganronpa? No. Isn't that some stupid anime thing? Jaden says, what the Sigma? Okay. Joe G says, wish is a trillion Sir Don Musk. Oh, and in my opinion, background music shouldn't be fighting for the spotlight. Just a tad loud. Okay. I'll decrease the music. I decreased it a tad. What if I do this? Let me try this for a second. Okay, I just wanted to annoy you guys. Okay, that should be better. Little says, The Hardest Rainbow by Masstown. That's the video behind me. Nolan says, we rating? Yeah, in 38 minutes. Saul says, Dominican Poppy. Okay. Thank you, Go to Sleep, for the 97 100 preschool stars. Captain says, I love you. Thank you. Davi says, rate my profile picture. I can't tell what that is. Gwill says, do you hate us? A little bit. Ray says, Don looks like he's absolutely had it with the comments. Yeah. Saul says, what's your favorite sport? Basketball. Hi says, are you Wada Don from Taku no Tachu? No. Thank you, Go to Sleep for the 154 preschool stars. 170 now. Thank you. Renee says, do you remember me? No. I don't. Sophia says, do you remember me? No. Duck says, rate my profile picture I drew. It's Duck. It's a good start. Dag says, Kevin McHale played with Larry Bird. Okay. Alright. I don't care. Go to Sleep says, I ran out of jewels. Oh. I guess you... I was wondering if you're gonna go to 200, but you ran out. Brody says, bro never getting a girlfriend for being weird live streaming. Okay. Nania says, come on, why not raid me? I'm a small streamer. Do you have your settings where I can raid you? Because some people have their settings where I can't. Just like says Larry Bird. Yeah, I misspoke. I heard myself say that, but I didn't acknowledge it. Sorry. Frog says, my Wi-Fi is bad. Okay. Dovey says, rate my profile picture. I'm not raping you. Jamie says, Don, what is it? Sunk says, do you just pick random comments? It's basically random. JK says, dude, she's perfect for you. She's playing RDR2, hot as F. Used to live in Pittsburgh. Fine. Give me the handle. It's probably sucks. Mortez says, do you have any medical condition? No. Carr says, I accidentally called 911 when I was like 6. Oh, that's exciting. Someone says, I love my teacher and I kill my teacher. Sorry, I'm going delirious. 1 second, please. I love my teacher and I kill my teacher boyfriend cause you gay. What? I don't get that. Sophia says, I just want to say I like your shirt. Thank you. Ty says, who are you again? A streamer. Jaden says, I gooned you. Okay. Thank you again to... Who am I looking for? Go to Sleep for the gift, the sunshine gift. Thank you. Omar says, hi. Hello, Omar. Raz says, what's your favorite game? I like Black Ops 2. GD says, sucky sucky for Whopper? No. Emmett says, Don, are you my friend? Fake friends, yeah. Yusuf says, someone wants to finger you. Yeah, lots of people do. Duck says, I'm back. Are you happy? No. Block says, what soccer/football team do you support? None of them. Bean says, do you touch feet? No. MCR says, should I go back to studying? Yes. Saul says, Ronaldo or Messi? Messi. Jenna says, Jesus loves you. He died for you. Thank you for trying to evangelize me, but it's in futility. Thank you, Haley Hints, for the stupid sunshine thing. I appreciated it. And I remember that picture, the penguin picture. Isn't that like a Windows 7 like background? Constant says crypto or nah. 100% nah. That guy says I gooned you. Okay. Ray says the man, the myth, the legend, the Donaldson. Thank you. Phoenix says ride a dirt bike. Come on, no. Omar says you like my profile. No, it's one of the worst profiles I've ever seen. Thank you, Haley, again for the sunshine gifts. I appreciate it, Haley. Hints. Duck says I'm back. I already read that. Blue says my mom died because she smashed into a knife. Oh, I'm sorry. JK says amethyst doll. Okay. Dude, why did I agree to search this up? It's probably... Zilla says, do you enjoy when other streamer bros raid you? I've never been raided before. Yeah. Okay, amethyst doll. Okay. I probably will never do this again. I hate taking recommendations because raiding is complicated. It's not as simple as it seems. They already have 85 viewers. I'm not gonna raid them. I want to raid a smaller streamer. I want to surprise, like, they're smaller, like, if a streamer has 10 viewers, or 5 viewers, it's gonna be a complete shock. But if they already have 80, it's not that interesting. N says, you should definitely add a live sub count to the stream. No, I hate that. Dad says, do you like Star Wars? I do not. Bystander says, I don't like juice. Okay. SJ says, you'll get a GF or BF. Not a BF. Javip says, do you like femboys? No. By the way, JK says, she's hot though, right? Well, I did see though that she has her breasts completely on display, so I guess she has good breasts, I guess. King says, can you give me a shout out? No, you're annoying. Leave the stream. Ava says, do you eat toenails? No. The Beach says, please raid me. No, I hate you. Max says, ask me a question, Don. Bennettler? Bennettler? Why would he say that? F says, does you bum clench when you're scaffed? Type correctly. Thank you again to Haley Hints for the gift. I appreciate it. Track says, do you eat meat? Yes. Putt says, yo, I love your videos. I like the ideas. And what do you think of my profile picture? I made it. Keep it up. It looks, I mean, I can barely see the letters, like BP. I can barely tell that's a, actually it's a PP. I thought it was a B. So maybe make the letters more visible. Yusuf says, Among Us stream one day? No. Yusuf's already read that. Xavier says, I'm laced with heroin and took mushrooms. Okay. NN says, when raiding, you should set up a redirect as well so everyone joins the stream. That's what I do every time. What are you talking about? Howley says, I love swallowing semen. Okay, you do you. Sarah says, hi. Hello, Sarah. Galactic says, you like weed? No. Beetroot says, you're so tough. I have aura too. Okay. Jess says, is my profile picture tough? No, it isn't. Emmett says, Don, you should get a Discord. A server? Yeah, I'm thinking about publishing a server to my channel. Jetta says, do you raid with us? Yes. I mean, I look at bits and pieces of it. I don't stay for the whole time. Joe G says, you remind me of my little toe. Sooner or later, I'm going to bang you on a table. Okay. The Beach says, please, I make beach stuff, please raid me. No. Jaco says, rate my profile picture, be nice. If you're gonna put be nice as a condition, I don't care. Bacon says, what's your favorite game? Minecraft. That guy says we should raid at Interlist. No, we shouldn't. Thank you, Haley Hints, for the high five. Liv says, song recommendation. Ascension Bloodlines. Star says, I died because of the tip of the counter. Okay. Omar says, you're a bad YouTuber. Give up. No. Apollo says, 500k or dinner with Jay-Z. 500k. Holtzer says, shout out penises and anus. There you go. Rancid says, is it a red flag if your girl don't fart in front of you? No, I don't want to experience that. Martin says, why are doing this? Money. Haley says, glad the high five wasn't as stupid as the sunshine. Well, they're both stupid, but to be honest, the sunshine is a little bit more stupid. I don't like that smiley face. Jaco says, do not give up, you're the best. Thank you. Mortez says, do you support gay people? Please say no. I support gay people. The Dude says, any tips for a small YouTuber? Make a better username than The Dude. The Dude is a bad username. Sunk says, do you remember me? No. Jess says, I subbed. Okay. I Love says, I am J. Alright. Space says, Shone or Aaron Judge. I don't know those guys. Thank you, Drift, for the stupid little waddling dog. Thank you. Little legs, thank you. Orlando says I'm back. Hello, Orlando. Gabby says, are you gay? No, yeah. Thank you, Drift. Asian says, touch me now. Jess says, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. Skibbity says, hey, do you remember me now? No. You really expect me to remember someone named Skibbity? There's like 1,000 people named that. Ashlyn says, what is this exotic music? I don't know the name. George says, I will sub okay. Alright, sounds good. Ava says, what's your religion? Don't have one. Mix It Up says 67. Okay. Mystery says, how often do you raid? I raid basically every stream. Edit says, why are your eyes so red? I don't know. N4 says, do you regret doing this? No. Basement says, do you have the hypno stuff in the background for people with bad attention spans? Basically. Joe G super chats. Mark Archer has a tiny new channel. 9PL Tops. I don't know who Mark Archer is. Is that some celebrity that now has a YouTube channel? Star says, what VR game do you play? Nothing. JJ says, I'm sorry for you dealing with these weird comments. No problem. Blixie says, come over now. Dr. Pepper says, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Vanilla. Jason says, what did you do today? Well, I ate today a burrito. Thank you, Radiance, for the Chuck E. Cheese coin. 2 of them, thank you. Ty says, how do you not know Aaron Judge? Because I don't care about sports. Stubbs says, do you know Vortrox? No. Arlie says, is my name unique? Arlie? Yeah, it is. Coco says, is there a reason for you doing this? Yes, there is. Ava says, what's your favorite singer? I don't like singers. I don't have favorites. JH says, do you like Tyrone? Who's Tyrone? Anna says, have you listened to Green Day? Not intentionally. Emmett says, since I watch every stream from you, can I be in the Discord server? Friend me on Discord. My username is in the About Me in my channel, and I'll add you to the server. Scott says, how was your day today? Pretty good. Official says, did you read this comment? Yeah, I did. Mason says, bro, drink some water. Remind me in 10 minutes. Keanu said, do you have AIDS? No, I don't. Just like S says, a real Dawn fan would be in the fan server. Yeah. AMB says, hi. Hello, AMB. Fishy says, fishy. Okay. Rev says, are you tired from doing this? No. Mix It Up says, should I sub? No. N says, just to confirm, is your name Dawn? Yeah. 67 says, touch me, daddy. No. Joe G super chats. Celebrity? No. New streamer. He'd freak. Lol. I can't exactly just. It's rated like some YouTubers don't have their settings where I can raid them, so raiding is a complicated thing. So I can't. I'll look into them though, but not this stream. Sunk says, let's see how many times you can read my comment before the raid. You're so annoying. Ava says, do you like the Amazing Digital Circus? Hell no. John says, I have 2 heads. Okay. Sierra says, are you actually gay? No. Brantley says, hi. Hello, Brantley. Can says, water time? No, in 5 minutes. JK says, how do I get added to the Discord server? I'll message you how. Space says, the big okay. Aaron says, can I sub? Yeah. 80 says, hi. Hello, 80. Unemployed says, are you an atheist? I'm agnostic. Ultra says, hi. Do you believe in Jesus? No. Bonnie says, what is your favorite breakfast? I like over easy eggs. Zero says, do you like them young? No. Ashlyn says, do you remember me? Yeah. Spencer says, do you play Forza Horizon 5 or Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3? No. Jack says, what's your favorite game? Minecraft. Pajama says, can I come out of the basement? No, you're not in there. Keanu says, do you have 3 body entrances? Do I have a vagina? No. Ting says, what's your favorite brain rot? I don't know, dude. Just says, fuck. The Dawn homunculus just puked everywhere. Fuck. Oh. I'm sorry on behalf of my clone. Fishy says, Shark Country. Okay. I'm Batman says, what happened here? I don't know what happened to it. Jay says, 13th least favorite letter. I don't know, dude. The Casual says, you should download some Minecraft forum mods. No, I shouldn't. You're an idiot. Lynx says, what's good? Hello, Lynx. Zglitch says, do you like geometry dashing? No. Country says, fuck. Okay. AMP says, I am Diddy. Okay. Nicholas says, hi. Hello, Nicholas. Angelo says, you know Giggles? Worth? No, I don't. Anna says, do you watch Shark Week? No. Sunk says, chicken wings or hot dogs and bologna. Chicken wings. Jesse says, you look like a child. Alright. Lawturn says, stupid little dog. Okay. Joe Mama says, Don, rate my profile picture. 5. Default profile pictures get a 5. Ayo says, do you remember me? No. E says, what time do you start your live stream? It's all over the place. I think Geometry says, you like Lashun Dingus? I don't know what that is. Cosmos says, play the finals. It's a fun game. No, I don't want to. I don't like sports games. Thank you, Vegan Slut, for the plastic flower. Yasser says, please rate my food. I don't know what your food looks like. Mad says, GH. Okay. Thank you again to Drift for the corgi gifts. I appreciate it. Totally says hi. Hello, Totally. Tredic says, what's your favorite color? Gray. Lawturn says, water time. Yes, 1 second, please. Just like yes, says the finals is a first-person arcade shooter. Oh, it's a shooter? Interesting. Ava says, like puppies? Yeah. Shadow says, can I get one dealer? I'm not a dealer. Ava says, do you have a shower? Yeah. Gina says, do you ride dirt bikes? No. Pajama says, racial slurs. Okay. The Casual says, you should download some Minecraft horror. No, I shouldn't. You have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you, excellent chair, for the flow state. Someone says, Hinduism or Muslim? Muslim. Honey says hi. Hello, Honey. Arlie says, what's up, neighbor? Hello, Arlie. Brystander says, thank you again to chat for the cum tributes. Oh. You masturbate to me? Okay. Thank you, Bella Rose, for the flow state. Sunk says, I've ran out of comments. Okay. Sprout says, what is your opinion on furries? They're weird. Erlan says, Roblox or Minecraft? Say Roblox. Minecraft. Roblox is infested with children. Thank you, Single Friest, for the disco ball abomination. Rev says, do you like ASMR? No, I don't. Manon says, hi, I'm new. Hello. Ruck says, if your mom said you were adopted, what would your reaction be? I'd be sad. Thank you, Bella Rose, for the turtle drinking water. I'll drink some more water. 2. Excuse me. Yeah, thank you, Bella, for the turtle drinking water. I appreciate it. 1 second, please. I thought you sent 2 of them, but you only sent 1. Thank you, Bella Rose. Sue says, rate the bike. It looks like any other bike. Jay says, are you gay? I'm not gay. Goat says, /TP water to kidneys. That's happening right now. Just says water time. I just did that. Little Burger says, isn't your girlfriend 6 years old? No. Sunk says, what would you rather eat, ice or frozen water? They're the same thing. Stock says, please unblock that basement. I'm starving. No. Cosmo says, if you like COD, you'll like the finals. I don't like COD too much nowadays. Thank you, Bella Rose, for the 3 6 7s. I appreciate it. Cosmo says, if you like COD, I already read that. V says, Kendrick or Drake? Kendrick. M says, what's the deal with Updog? I'm not falling for that. Astrid says, have you ever been recognized in public? I have not. Yasser says, please rate my profile picture. What's the point of the white space? Just zoom in. Ava says, Stitch. Okay. I like trains. Says, can you drink water? I already did that. Someone says, I'm from Uzbekistan. Okay. Alright. Sorry, I thought I did something catastrophic. But I'm fine. That's cool that you're from Uzbekistan. Noah says hi. Hello, Noah. Jose says Discord mode. What? Thank you again to Bella Rose for the turtle drinking water. Funny says, are you an asshole? Sometimes. 1 second, please. James says, when was the last time you showered? A few hours ago. Thank you, Monster Rider, for the disco ball abomination. Fun Time says, too many people, he won't see my messages. Now I have. Rancid says, when I was a kid, I'd have poop stains on my underwear because I didn't want to go poop. Oh, that's gross. while playing video games. Wow, you were dedicated. Sirius says, bro, my toes got bitten off by a bee. Oh, I'm sorry. A Orange says, you got a dog? Yes. Head says, hi. Hello, Head. Wah says, is it pink? No comment. Thank you again to Monster Rider for the disco ball abomination. Zai says, me and my friend have a crush on the same person. Oh, that's unfortunate. Thank you, Remy Acosta, for the flow state. Thank you. Wes, thank you for the star. Italiano says, do you remember me? No. Rex says, do you remember me? Yes, I do. Already read that. Park says, guess what, chicken butt? Okay. Star says, I'm gonna go now, bye. See ya. Elite says, do you like my profile picture? Yeah, it's a little funny. Galaxy says, are you religious? No. Yasser says, do you remember me? From like a minute ago, I guess so. Shadow says, cars, row, dogs. What? Christian says, are you emo? No. Miro says, you're a cool guy. I think you're not weird. And do you make Minecraft videos? How about check out my channel? The King says, what's your favorite word? Parasocial. That's definitely one of my favorite words. And I'm being serious. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. I was says hello. Hello, I was. Bro says have a good day. You too. Nell says, do you play Roblox? No. Jose says Dixon. Okay. Jim says, do you like food? I do. Ashlyn says, time to hydrate, Don. Not yet. Mr. Pancake says, rate my profile picture. I'd give it a 1. Actually, a 0.1. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Kath says, sneezes politely. Oh, that's cute. Daddy says, is my profile picture, peak? It is... Sorry, I'm distracted. No, it's not. It's the opposite of peak. You says you rating. Yeah, I'm looking for a person to raid right now. Stone says Sunchip Sunrise. Okay. Thank you, 52, for the 6-7 abomination. The gift, thank you. Mason says, rate my profile picture. 1. Jonathan says, I found it. Okay. N says, at Lil Crusher. Dude, let me handle it myself. Taking recommendations is really hard. Clayton says, Jesus is king. Okay. Zyno says, are you gay? I am not gay. Samuel says, is my profile picture peak? No, it's not. Nismo says, can you cuss? Yeah. Joking says, you seem like a kind, grayish guy. Yeah, I am. Sirius says, my eyes got destroyed by an ant. I'm sorry. They, like, bit your eye when you were sleeping, or? I don't get that. Perry says baseball or basketball. Basketball. Robbie says play button emoji. Okay. Daddy says you watch anime. No. Says raid me if I go live. No. Leave the stream. I hate you. Jose says bidcock. Okay. Blue says Don, who's your favorite music artist? I like Radiohead. 1 second, please. Finn says ant or SGA. I don't know. Ruckman says, can you show us your dog? No. Someone says save mom or you ooh gay girlfriend. No comment. 1 second, please. I'm doing something. Axel says hello. Hello, Axel. Haley Hint super chats. Enjoy. Thank you, Haley, for the $2 and for all of your the gifts you've been sending. I appreciate it. Bike says, do you like FNAF? No. Jay says, rate my profile picture. -1. Kerr says, hello, Don, I'm back. Hello, Kerr. Thank you, Perry, for the 6-7 gift. Steph says, basketball or football? I prefer basketball. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Glue says, do you remember me? No. Heather says, you like Apex? No. Sunk says, how long would you say it takes to process a thought? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. That's a weird question. Jeddah says, do you like Nier, Amada, Mr. Hate, everything? I don't know what that is. Randy says, do you like my profile picture? A pistol? No, I don't. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. I'm almost done. Okay, I'm back. Legoat says, we rating today? Whenever you see definitely rating streamer in, that means we're rating today. XOG says, what's your favorite dish? Probably cheeseburgers. Thank you, Remy Acosta, for the flow state. Daddy says, you watched the Amazing Digital Circus? No. Jose says, happy. Okay. Wojo says, do you fish? I do not fish. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Noah says, rate my profile picture. 1. Just black. I don't like it. Boya says, do you have any superstitions? No. Dis says, do you remember me? No. Ruck says, what time is it for you? It's in the PM. Crystal says, do you like the general aesthetic of my profile picture? No. I dislike it. Mason says, pour water on your keyboard for $200. Screw yourself. Leave my stream. I hate you. D-Tub says, do you like game style? I do not. Bryson says, do you remember me? No. Jenna says, do you remember me? No. C-Dub says, I'm gay. That's cool that you're gay, C-Dub. Cold Slayer says, you like my name? Yes, I do. Josiah says, drink some water. I think I can wait until the end of the stream. 1 second, please. Andrad super chats, hey homie, have you been rated? W's in the chat for Don. I have never been rated. Thank you, Andrad, for the W's. Levi says hello. Hello, Levi. Macy says, have you watched Love Island? No, I'm not into that crap. Sunk says, rate my profile picture. A ball in midair. That's pretty cool. 1 second, please. Pokey says hi. Hello, Pokey. Jesse says hi. Hello, Jesse. Valo says, what is your favorite show? If I had to choose, I guess Breaking Bad. Jack says, if your favorite word is parasocial, are you parasocial? Yeah, sometimes I am. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Ty says, atoms or air particles? Atoms. Money says, rate my new profile picture. Oh, a cute dog in basketball gear. That's pretty cool. Jose says, duh. Okay. Thank you, Remy Acosta, for the flow state. Zygon says, rate my profile picture. 1. J-Frog says, do you play R6? No. I used to. Jetta says, Nier Automata is a really good game. Dude, I'm not into games nowadays. They bore me. Dr. Tubb super chats, have you ever been to the UK? No. I have never been out of North America. Al says, you subscribe to somebody who is playing something scary. What? Lucas says, favorite game? Minecraft. LeBron says, hi, do you remember me? No. Why would I remember someone named LeBron James with the default profile picture? That is like the perfect NPC unmemorable profile. I would not remember you. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Patricia says, I got $1. Okay. Lux says, gay. Alright. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Vivo says, remember me? No. Muhammad says, 1 sec, please. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm oversaying that. It's just, hello says, remember me? No. Alamac says, do you support Palestine? No comment. Yeah, no comment. I don't get into that kind of stuff. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Don says, bro, what's your favorite color? Gray. Ellie says, rate my profile picture. Oh, that's wholesome. Soleil says, do you have a girlfriend? I keep that private. Floro says, the ooh are so beautiful, I can't stop smiling. Are you talking about me? Oh, you are so beautiful, thank you. Someone says, Uzbekistan or Ukraine? No comment. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. Okay, I'm back. Peck says hello. Hello, Peck. Dylan says, okay, I'm back. Dude, I'm sorry if I'm not giving you guys the attention that you guys deserve. I'm looking for a person to raid. I think I found them. Hunter says hi. Hello, Hunter. Pokey says, have you watched One Piece? I haven't. Sifra says, can you eat 10 hot dogs? No. No. 1 second, please. I think this will be the last time I say 1 second, please. I'm almost completely done. Just another 2 seconds. 1 second. Oh my god. Why is this not working? Yes, there we go. Okay. Now I am completely done. Alex says hi. Hello, Alex. Just says 1 second, please. Now it's over. IC says, take your time, man. Thank you, but now I can just read the chat now. Lux says, you play Fortnite now. Alina says, someone is going to say, rate my profile picture after this question. Yeah, probably. Thank you, Don Sade, for the Uncle Alert. Pokey says, have you watched anime? I haven't. The NFL says, when the lights go off, when nobody else is around, are you happy with the man you are? No. Happy says, can you beat Stereo Madness? Yeah, of course. Joel says, something good just happened to me. Also, I can't get the Eyes Wide Shut ritual song in my head. Oh yeah, that's gotten stuck in my head before too. I hate to say it, but 1 more second, please. Yeah, just another few seconds. Yeah, the song that stays with me the most, though, is the piano song. Duckman says, what's your favorite soccer player? Mine's Mbappe. Mine's Mbappe, too. Braun says, okay, alright. Macy says, dang, alright. Daddy says, epic face, okay. Blue says, what's your favorite Radiohead song? I like the album, kid A. Monster says, are you Batman? No. Bond says, 1 more hour, please. I'm sorry. Moonlight says, Dawn, why are you ignoring you? I'm not ignoring you. Mila says, what your favorite scene in Eyes Wide Shut? I like the costume shop scenes with Mr. Milich. Thank you, Lily Spark, for the GOAT trophy. Dis says, rate my profile picture, 1. Lawturn says, do you play like Minecraft servers? Not anymore. Maybe says hi. Hello, maybe. Alamac says, rate my profile picture, 3. Ty says, I forgot who you are. Alright. Davey says, hi, how are you? I'm good. It says, are you an introvert? I am. How to says, water break. Also, you're my favorite streamer. Thank you. Not water break, though. Alex says, do you play Pokemon? No. Vivio says, rate my profile picture. There's too many, like, what's even happening? Like, it's too busy. Real says, do you have a girlfriend/boyfriend? I keep that private. Nicola says, rate my profile picture, Donnie. 1. Daddy says, I wish I could super chat. Okay. Speaking of that, thank you again to Dr. Tubbs for the super chat and Don's Day for the Uncle Alerts and Lily for the GOAT trophy. Don says, rate my profile picture. 3. Hair says, is that a kaleidoscope background? No. V1 says, rate my profile picture on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 to 1. I guess I have to choose 1. Ruck says, are you ever going to post anything else? No. Blue says, alright, Don, I'm gonna go. Alright, see ya. It's too bad that you're gonna miss the raid in 5 minutes. Just like as super chats, this is for the dude who wanted to super chat. That's cool. Thank you for doing that, just like Ed. But thank you more for the money, because that's what I care most about. Jetta says, how many viewers do they got? I'm not sure. Pokey says, what's your favorite sport? My favorite sport is basketball, but I really don't care about sports, to be honest, though. Capybara says, 1 second. W Capybara. Yeah, they're cute. Edward says, what's the me relation formula? I don't know. Diego says, hello. Hello, Diego. How's it going? Braun says, what is a raid? It's when we go surprise a small streamer. We're gonna make their day. Ira says, you kind of fine, thank you. Plushy says, hi. Hello, Plushy. Kerr says, bye, Don. Have a good night. Oh, you're missing the raid too? Okay. See ya, Kerr. Thank you, Aquarian, for the Disco Ball Abomination. The Blockster says, do you know about the country of Malta? I know that Grande is from there. He's a memer. The first captain says, the lizard isn't in the room anymore. Yeah, I saw the Discord message. Macy says, oh, you're sweet. Thank you. Howie says, rate my profile picture 1 to 100. 13. Chick says, hi. Hello, Chick. Antonia says, you know my cat? I don't. I'm Flamingo says, hi from Israel. Hello, Flamingo. By the way, when we do the raid in 3 minutes, be respectful, obey the chat rules, and don't spam. Have a fun conversation. Zoom says, I can breathe oxygen. Okay. Volt says, hi. Hello, Volt. Arle says, do you like 21 Pilots? No, I don't. Nathan says, rate my profile picture 1 out of 10. 0.5. Alex says, hi. Hello, Alex. Blue says, know what? I'll stay for the raid. Okay, awesome. Fafa says, found a new tech called eating. Okay. Bob says, hi. Hello, Bob. Very super chats $1 Thank you. By the way, when we do the raid, feel free to make up stories about me. Like, feel free to say like I'm a trans activist and like I'm gay. And Haley says hi. Hello, Haley. Portugal says, do you play Minecraft? I do not anymore. Milton says hi. Hello, Milton. Riley says hello. Hello, Riley. Stetson says poop. Okay. Jace says rate my profile picture 1. Jennifer says Messi or Ronaldo. Messi. Eric says hi. Hello, Eric. Tyler says, do you have a headset dent? No. Win says yo. Hello, Win. 67 says I'm in space. Okay. By the way, again, in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we are going to surprise a small streamer. The Real says hi. Hello, Real. Royal says, why you mean? I don't know, dude. Thank you, Barry, for the second American dollar. Magma says hi. Hello, Magma. JK says I'm staying for the raid. Awesome. Me Name says the sun always shines on TV. Okay. By the way, I saw you in that one guy's stream. What's his name? He's the guy that also says the word says a lot. Thank you, Spidey, for the sunshine gift. Eric says hi. Hello, Eric. Cindy says, do you have any medical condition? No. TRB says love you, man. Thank you. And Crossing says, I just joined the stream to say goodnight to you. Thank you, but you might want to stay for 2 minutes because we're doing a raid very soon. Stetson says poop. Okay. Thank you, Tinted Random, for the American Eagle. Antona says, do you have a dog? Yeah, I do. Nerf Boy says hi. Hello, Nerf Boy. Me Name says Maddie, good vibes. I don't remember them. Susan says, what did you get on your SAT? I don't remember. Thank you, Caddy, for the disco ball abomination. Granny says hi. Hello, Granny, with a sus profile picture. 1969 says, remember me? No, I don't. YF says poop. Okay. Thank you, Caddy, and Andrad, for the high five. Adam says hello. Hello, Adam. Pebble says, can I see your dog? No, no. Inconvenient. Kevin says, which streamer are we waiting? You'll see. It says, what do you think of America? I enjoy living here. Nava says hi. Hello, Nava. By the way, when the timer hits 0, there will be a button you click, like an actual button, which will take you to the stream. The small streamer. The Chaos says nice hair. Thank you. Silent says yo. Hello, Silent. Little says, take a deep breath. No. Eric says, remember me? No. 67 says, do you like doing the raids? Yeah, I love it. Hayun says, favorite food? The cheeseburger. Thank you to Infinity for the high five. Akon says, well, super chats. Do you like rhythm games? No, I don't. Tat says, do you like Strack? I don't know what that is. She says, sleep. Not right now. Pebble says, do you believe in Christ? No. Apex says, I'm excited for the raid. Yeah, me too. In 30 seconds. Portugal says, what games do you play? I don't play any games nowadays. Tear says, do you know 2 + 2 is 4? Yeah, I do. Hoy says, hi, bro. Hello, Hoy. Sunset says, how are you? I'm good. Game says, favorite sport? Basketball. Simon says, hope you are having a good day. Thank you. Pop says, how are you today? I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Liam says, I'm ready to do the raid, if that's what you're asking, because I am too. Left says, I like your headphones. Thank you. Thank you, Ruby, for the 2 gifts. I appreciate it. Durf says, do you like Pokemon? No, I don't. Okay, we're doing the raid. If you don't see the button, I just posted to my channel the stream. Like, go to my channel, click posts, and that's how you can join the raid. But also, there will be a button in just a second. There should be a button. Click that button to join the raid. I'll see you in the raid. Click the button. That'll pop up in just a second.